Imagine a heavy, iron-bound oak door, cool to the touch, standing before you. It is ancient, the wood grooved by the passage of centuries. You push it open, and the world outside, the noise, the rush, the demands, instantly vanishes. You step into a cathedral of silence. The air here is different. It is still, suspended in time, carrying the rich, comforting scent of vanilla, almonds and dried leather. Shafts of amber sunlight pierce through the high, arched windows, dancing with slow-motion dust motes that float like tiny stars in a dark galaxy. You're in the great library of the dream. Rows upon rows of dark mahogany shelves stretch upward, spiraling into the shadows above, holding the weight of infinite worlds, infinite lives, and infinite quiet. The carpet beneath your feet is thick and soft, muffling your steps as you walk deeper into this sanctuary. There is a sense of protection here, a feeling that within these walls nothing can harm you. The light is golden and syrupy, slowing down time itself until the beating of your own heart settles into a rhythm of profound peace. You have arrived at a sanctuary for your mind. There is no urgency here. There is no test to pass. As you find a soft velvet armchair in a sunlit corner, sinking into its embrace, listen closely to this truth. You do not need to try to remember. Your subconscious mind is a vast library, far greater than any built by stone and mortar. It will absorb these 101 truths while you rest, filing them away in the deep, quiet archives of your memory. Just let go. Release the tension in your jaw, lower your shoulders, and allow your awareness to drift like a leaf on a slow-moving river. Let the words wash over you, not as information to be processed, but as a lullaby to be felt. We drift back through the mists of time to the very first cradle of organized memory. In the ancient city of Nineveh, beneath the relentless sun of modern-day Iraq, King Ashurbanipal constructed the world's first known library. It was not filled with paper or parchment, but with the earth itself. Over 30,000 tablets of clay, etched with the wedge-shaped marks of cuneiform, held the Epic of Gilgamesh and the movements of the stars. These books could survive fire. In fact, when the great palaces burned, the clay did not turn to ash. It baked harder, preserving the thoughts of the ancients in ceramic immortality, waiting thousands of years to be whispered again. The heavy clay turns to light papyrus as we float westward to the coast of Egypt, where the legendary Library of Alexandria stood as a beacon of the Mediterranean. It was more than a collection of scrolls. It was a shrine to the Muses, a place where the silence was filled with the scratching of quills. Ships docking in the harbour were searched not for contraband, but for books. Any scroll found was seized, copied by scribes, and the copy returned to the captain while the original remained in the library, adding to the world's greatest hoard of knowledge, now lost to the sands of time and the smoke of history. From the sun-drenched coast, we retreat into the cool stone shadows of the European Middle Ages. In the chained libraries of old, books were considered treasures so valuable, so rare, that they were physically shackled to the shelves. Picture the Hereford Cathedral Library, where heavy iron chains still link the leather-bound volumes to the wooden rods. This was not a prison for ideas, but a vault for diamonds of the mind. To read, one had to stand close to the shelf, the chain rattling softly, a reminder of the immense weight and worth of the written word in a world where paper was scarcer than gold. The chain settles into silence, and we become aware of the quiet. The concept of the library voice, the hushed whisper, is not merely a rule of etiquette, but an architectural design. The great reading rooms are built to capture sound, to dampen the footfall, to keep the world at bay. In the grand reading room of the British Museum, the vast dome was constructed to lift the thoughts of readers upward, creating a vacuum of silence where the only sound is the turning of a page, a sound that has been measured by acoustic engineers as one of the most relaxing white noises known to the human ear, akin to the gentle lapping of waves or the rustle of autumn leaves. As you turn that page in your mind, a distinct aroma rises, the perfume of history. There is a scientific reason why we love the smell of old books. As the paper ages, the organic compounds break down, releasing volatile chemicals. One of these is lignin, which is closely related to vanillin. This is why a walk through an antiquarian library smells faintly of vanilla flowers and almonds, a biological signal that calms the nervous system, triggering a primal sense of comfort and safety, telling the brain that you are in a place that has survived the passage of time. That scent of vanilla permeates the air of the largest library in existence, a colossal monument to human thought. The Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. is so vast that its shelves, if laid end to end, would stretch for over 830 miles, longer than the distance from Paris to Berlin. It receives some 15,000 items every single working day. It is a living organism of information, a labyrinth of paper and digital dreams that grows by the second, holding everything from the rough draft of the Declaration of Independence to the smallest forgotten map of a frontier town. Yet, not all libraries are made of paper and ink. In Denmark, a movement began that turned the concept of borrowing on its head. In the human library, you do not check out a book, you check out a person. You can borrow a refugee, a firefighter, or a person with a history you do not understand. For 30 minutes, they become an open book, sitting with you, answering your questions, sharing their narrative. It is a library of breath and heartbeat, where the pages are spoken words and the covers are the faces of strangers becoming friends. Leaving the city, we travel to the lush green mountains of Colombia, where the roads dissolve into narrow trails. Here, the library comes on 4 legs. This is the Biblioburro, a travelling library resting on the backs of 2 faithful donkeys named Alpha and Beto. The librarian, a teacher, treks through the jungle to reach isolated villages, the donkeys carrying signs that read Biblioburro. As they arrive in the clearing, the children run to meet them, the donkeys standing patiently as the panniers are opened to reveal the colourful worlds hidden within, proving that a library is not a building, but an act of sharing. The humidity of the jungle fades into the cool, polished air of Dublin, Ireland. We enter the long room of the Trinity College Library, often called the most beautiful room in Ireland. It is a cathedral of wood, with a barrel-vaulted ceiling that seems to go on forever. Lining the aisle are marble busts of great philosophers and writers, standing guard over 200,000 of the library's oldest books. The air here is thick with the presence of Jonathan Swift and Oscar Wilde, a tunnel of dark oak that feels like the inside of a cello, resonating with the music of centuries of thought. In the shadows of such great halls, preservation is paramount, and sometimes the guardians are not human. We travel south to the Joanina Library in Coimbra, Portugal, a Baroque jewel of gold and exotic wood. When the sun sets and the human visitors leave, the true custodians emerge from behind the paintings. A colony of small bats lives within the library walls. They are protected and cherished, for they fly through the darkness of the night, hunting the insects that would otherwise eat the paper. Each morning, the librarians cover the antique furniture with leather cloths, and each night the bats perform their silent winged patrol, ensuring the survival of the stories for one more day. The gentle flutter of leathery wings in Portugal fades into the velvet stillness of a deeper, more secret darkness. We descend now, moving from the open air into the subterranean heart of the Vatican City. Here, beneath the cobblestones where millions walk, lies the Archivum Secretum Apostolicum Vaticanum, the Vatican Apostolic Archives. But the word secret here does not mean hidden in the modern sense. It stems from the Latin secretum, meaning private or set apart. Imagine standing at the precipice of a hallway that seems to have no end, a tunnel of knowledge stretching into the dim distance. There are 53 miles of shelving here, 53 miles of history, stacked floor to ceiling, breathing quietly in the climate-controlled air. If you were to walk the length of these aisles, tracing your fingertips along the spines of the ledgers, you would be walking from the steps of the Vatican all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. Within these cool, dry corridors rest the correspondence of Michelangelo, the plea of Mary Queen of Scots before her execution, and the excommunication of Martin Luther. It is a place where the ink of the past is still drying in the mind of the present, a fortress of paper where time is not a line, but a labyrinth. The silence here is heavy, compressed by the weight of 12 centuries of human thought, wrapping around you like a thick woolen blanket, insulating you from the noise of the world above. And as you visualize those endless miles of quiet paper, notice how your own breathing has slowed to match the rhythm of this place. Deep, steady, and calm. You do not need to memorize the history, simply feel the peace of its preservation. From the hidden stone corridors of Rome, we travel upward and outward, crossing the ocean to a place where stone turns to light. In New Haven, Connecticut, the Bennecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library defies the very nature of stone. From the outside, it appears as a formidable cube of grey Vermont marble, a monolith without windows. But step inside during the day and you witness a miracle of geology and architecture. The marble panels are cut to a precise thickness of 1 1/4 inches, thin enough that the stone loses its opacity. When the sun strikes the exterior, the stone filters the harsh rays, transforming them into a warm amber glow that floods the interior. It is like standing inside a jewel, or waking up inside a honeycomb filled with golden light. There is no direct sunlight to damage the precious Gutenberg Bible resting at its centre. There is only this diffused, honey-coloured radiance. The light is soft, kind to the eyes, and kind to the ancient paper. It creates a mood of perpetual dusk, a suspended golden hour where the urgency of the day melts into the tranquillity of the evening. To stand here is to be held in the warm embrace of the earth itself, protected by the very stone that forms the mountains, yet bathed in a light that feels as gentle as a candle's flame. This golden light brings to mind the painstaking work of those who kept the flame of knowledge alive, long before electricity banished the shadows. We drift back to the scriptoriums of the Celtic monks, to the creation of the Book of Kells. Visualize a small stone room, chilled by the Irish damp, warmed only by a small peat fire and the focus of a single mind. The monk sits hunched over vellum made from calfskin, his hands steady, his breath shallow. He's not merely writing, he is illuminating. He grinds lapis lazuli from the mines of Afghanistan to create a blue as deep as the ocean. He mixes orpiment for a yellow as bright as the sun, and he applies gold leaf, thinner than a dragonfly's wing, to the page. The detail is so microscopic that some lines can only be seen clearly with a magnifying glass, yet they were painted by the naked eye under the flickering light of tallow candles. This was an act of meditation made visible. The carpet pages of the book are a weave of endless knots, snakes biting their own tails, and geometric patterns that have no beginning and no end. To look at them is to lose yourself in the infinite loop of creation, tracing the lines with your mind's eye, round and round, soothing the chaotic thoughts of the day into a single beautiful thread of focus. As that golden thread unravels, it leads us away from the books of the past and plants a seed for the future. In libraries across the world, the definition of a collection is blooming into something living. We find ourselves standing before a set of wooden drawers in a small community library. These drawers do not hold index cards or microfiche. They hold life. This is a seed library. Pull open a drawer and you hear the soft rattle of paper packets. Inside are the heirloom seeds of tomatoes, beans, sunflowers and squash. Varieties that have been grown for generations, saved not by corporations but by gardeners. You borrow the seeds, you plant them in the warm earth of your garden, you tend to them as they grow towards the sun, and at the end of the season you let the strongest plant go to seed. You harvest those new seeds and return them to the library for the next person. It is a lending system based on the cycles of nature, a library that breathes, grows and feeds the community. It reminds us that knowledge is not just dry facts on a page, it is a living thing, capable of bearing fruit, capable of being shared, capable of sustaining us through the long winters. And just as the seed rests in the dark earth before it sprouts, let your mind rest in the dark, warm comfort of this relaxation, sinking deeper into the mattress, heavy and safe, absorbing these images like the earth absorbs the rain. The organic chaos of the garden gives way to the structured, geometric beauty of the modern age in Tianjin, China. Here, we step into the Tianjin Binhai Library, a space that feels less like a building and more like the inside of a giant white eye. The auditorium at the centre is a luminous sphere. The pupil of the eye and the bookshelves ripple outwards from it like the contours of an eyelid, creating a landscape of terraced white layers. The shelves flow in continuous curves, from the floor to the ceiling, creating a topographical map of knowledge. It is a cathedral of white stillness, vast and futuristic. The light here is pure and diffused, bouncing off the white curves, eliminating all shadows. Walking these terraces feels like walking inside a cloud, or exploring the interior of a pristine white seashell. The architecture encourages you to look up, to ascend, to climb the mountains of books. It is a visual representation of the human mind's capacity, limitless, structured, and capable of holding an ocean of information within a container of pure calm. From this vast openness, we seek the intimacy of a solemn promise. We travel to the heart of Oxford University, to the Bodleian Library. Before you can become a reader here, before you can touch a single leather-bound volume, you must take an oath. In the past, this was spoken aloud. Today, it is often signed, but the weight of the words remains. You must promise not to bring fire or flame into the library. I hereby undertake not to remove from the library or to mark, deface, or injure in any way any volume, document, or other object belonging to it or in its custody. Not to bring into the library or kindle therein any fire or flame, and not to smoke in the library, and I promise to obey all rules of the library. There is something deeply hypnotic about a vow. It is a ritual of respect. By agreeing to these words, you're entering a covenant with the past. You're becoming a guardian. The prohibition of fire is a reminder of how fragile these treasures are, how easily history can be turned to ash. But in a deeper sense, it is an invitation to extinguish the fires of the mind, the burning anxieties, the hot urgencies of the day. In the library, the fire is put out, the smoke clears. All that remains is the cool, clear air of contemplation. This respect for boundaries brings us to a library that sits directly on top of one. In the small towns of Derby Line, Vermont and Stansted, Quebec, stands the Haskell Free Library and Opera House. It is a beautiful Victorian building of granite and brick that belongs to no single nation. The international border between the United States and Canada runs right through the reading room. Visualize a thick black line painted on the hardwood floor. On one side, the shelves hold books in English, on the other, books in French. You can sit in a chair in the United States and rest your feet in Canada. You can browse a magazine in Quebec and walk across the room to check it out in Vermont. During times of strict travel bans, families separated by borders have met here, in this quiet sanctuary, standing on either side of the black line to whisper news, to show photographs, to be close to one another in a space that technically belongs to everyone and no one. It is a zone of neutrality, a place where the political lines on a map dissolve into the quiet camaraderie of readers. Here, the only passport you need is curiosity, and the only border guard is the hush of the librarian. The wooden floorboards of the Haskell fade into the rich dark walnut of the Philosophical Hall in the Strahov Monastery, Prague. This is a library that smells of beeswax and ancient timber. The ceiling is not stone, but a canvas, a breathtaking fresco titled The Intellectual Progress of Mankind. The room is 2 stories high, filled with globe stands and rotating desks, designed for the monks to study the heavens as well as the scriptures. But there is a secret here. The bookshelves that line the walls are actually hidden doors. They swing open silently on well-oiled hinges to reveal hidden corridors and spiral staircases leading to the gallery above. It is a childhood dream come true, the book that opens a door, the shelf that hides a passage. It speaks to that deep subconscious knowing that books are portals. When you open a book, you are opening a hidden door in the wall of reality. You're stepping out of your life and into another. The Strahov Monastery is a physical manifestation of this magic. A place where the walls are not barriers, but invitations to go deeper, to climb higher, to find the hidden staircases in your own mind. And as you climb that spiral staircase in your imagination, round and round, drifting higher into the loft of your subconscious, notice how the air gets cleaner, lighter, and more serene. We move from the hidden doors of Prague to the bedside tables of Tokyo, exploring a concept rather than a building. The Japanese have a beautiful word that has no direct translation in English, tsundoku. It describes the act of acquiring books and letting them pile up, unread, with the other books. To some, a stack of unread books might seem like a task list, a source of guilt. But in the true spirit of tsundoku, it is a source of comfort. These stacks are not clutter, they are an anti-library. They represent potential. They are a physical reminder of all the things you do not yet know, all the stories you have yet to live. Sleeping beside a tower of unread books is like sleeping beside a silo of grain for the winter. It creates a feeling of abundance. You are surrounded by worlds waiting to be discovered, friends waiting to be met. You do not need to read them all right now. Their mere presence is a promise that the future holds wonder. The smell of the paper, the colourful spines, the variation in height and thickness. It forms a protective barrier around your bed, a fortress of imagination where you can sleep soundly, knowing that adventure is always within arm's reach. Finally, we leave the warmth of the bedside lamp and travel to the ends of the earth, to the frozen archipelago of Svalbard, deep within the Arctic Circle. Here, jutting out of a snowy mountain like a monolith from a science fiction dream, is the entrance to the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. It is the ultimate library, but it contains no books. It contains the genetic history of our planet's agriculture. Carved deep into the permafrost, effectively refrigerated by the mountain itself, are millions of seeds from every country on Earth. It is a doomsday vault, built to withstand earthquakes, nuclear war, and rising sea levels. The entrance glows with an ethereal turquoise art installation, reflecting the polar night. Inside, down the long icy tunnel, the air is silent and profoundly cold, minus 18 degrees Celsius. Here, crates of seeds sleep in suspended animation. The wheat from the American Midwest rests beside the rice of Southeast Asia and the sorghum of Africa. It is a library of potential life, waiting for a day that hopefully will never come, but ready if it does. It is the most patient place on Earth, a cathedral of ice guarding the blueprint of survival, a frozen lullaby singing to the future, promising that no matter what happens, the story of life will be remembered, preserved, and kept safe. The biting, clinical cold of the Arctic Seed Vault begins to soften now, melting into a mist that carries us across the sea to the rugged, salt-sprayed cliffs of the Atlantic coast. We find ourselves standing before a structure that seems to have grown out of the rocks themselves. This is the library of a dreamer, built into the very edge of the world. Imagine a tower of rough-hewn stone, its windows narrow and arched, looking out over a churning grey ocean. Inside, the walls are lined with cedar wood, and the air smells of sea salt, old ink, and wood smoke. This is a private sanctuary, a place where the roar of the waves outside only serves to deepen the silence within. The light here is moody and shifting, silver when the clouds pass over the sun, then suddenly a brilliant, blinding white as the mist clears. In libraries like these, perched on the edges of continents, the books act as anchors. They hold the weight of human history against the vast, indifferent emptiness of the horizon. You can feel the sturdiness of the floor beneath you, a grounding presence that tells you that you are safe. tucked away in a cocoon of stories while the wild wind howls against the glass. The contrast between the chaos of the elements and the order of the shelves creates a profound sense of relief, a deep, settling comfort that radiates from your chest to your limbs, leaving you heavy and still. That feeling of being anchored in a storm drifts with us, transforming from a stone tower into a moving vessel. We are now on the water, but the water is calm, as smooth as a sheet of black glass. We are in the fjords of Norway, watching a boat glide silently through the deep blue shadows of the mountains. This is the Epos, a floating library that sails from village to village along the isolated coastline. Visualize the boat's red hull reflecting in the still, icy water, a bright spark of human connection in the wilderness. Inside the cabin, the walls are packed with 6,000 volumes, held in place by specialized racks that prevent them from sliding when the sea grows restless. For the people living in these remote outposts, the arrival of the Epos is a holiday of the mind. The boat docks, the gangplank lowers, and the scent of fresh coffee and new paper wafts into the crisp mountain air. It is a bridge made of wood and words, connecting lonely islands to the collective heartbeat of the world. As the boat gently rocks against the pier, the rhythmic creak-clack of the timber acts as a natural metronome, slowing your thoughts, easing your pulse, lulling you into a state of effortless drift. And as you drift with the tide of the Epos, you realize that your mind is just as fluid, capable of holding many stories at once, and as this knowledge settles, your breathing slows, deeper now, much deeper. The rhythmic rocking of the boat fades into the steady mechanical hum of a train. We find ourselves in the underground arteries of London, where the air is cool and smells faintly of electricity and stone. In a world that moves too fast, the books on the underground movement creates moments of unexpected stillness. Imagine a commuter, weary from a long day, sitting down on a velvet-covered seat and finding a book tucked into the corner, a bright sticker on its cover reading, "Take me with you." These are traveller books, nomads of the city. They have no permanent shelf, their home is the hands of strangers. They are left on benches, on windowsills, and in the laps of those who look like they need a story. There is a quiet magic in finding a gift from a person you will never meet. It reminds us that we are all part of a silent, invisible network of readers, sharing the same dreams in the dark tunnels beneath the earth. The train clatters over the tracks, a soothing industrial lullaby that carries you forward without you having to move a muscle. Just sitting, just being, just resting in the flow of the journey. The darkness of the subway tunnel eventually opens up into the blindingly bright sun-scorched plains of Kenya. Here, the hum of the train is replaced by the soft rhythmic padding of hooves on dry earth. We are witnessing the Camel Mobile Library, in the Garissa region, where the sand stretches to the horizon and the heat shimmer makes the air dance. A caravan of camels carries the weight of the world on their humps. Each camel is draped with yellow wooden boxes, balanced perfectly to distribute the load of hundreds of books. They move with a slow, deliberate grace, their long shadows stretching across the dunes. The librarians travel with them, walking for miles under the vast open sky to reach nomadic schools. When the caravan stops under the shade of an acacia tree, the boxes are opened, and the desert is suddenly filled with the rustle of turning pages. The contrast is stunning. The ancient, timeless desert and the fresh, new ideas contained within the books. The camels stand perfectly still, their large dark eyes blinking slowly, radiating a sense of ancient patience. Watch them breathe, long, slow inhales, and even longer, slower exhales, and find yourself mimicking that desert pace, slow, patient, and profoundly calm. The golden sand of Kenya begins to sparkle and transform, turning into the gilded carvings of a royal dream in Austria. We are standing in the Admont Abbey Library, the largest monastic library in the world. This is not a place for shadows, it is a hall of light. The ceiling is a series of 7 domes, each painted with intricate frescoes that represent the stages of human knowledge, from the arts and sciences to the final peak of divine revelation. The architecture is high Baroque, a symphony of white and gold. The shelves are white, the floors are a checkerboard of white, red and grey marble, and the statues that stand in the corners are carved from dark lime wood, gilded until they glow. One particular set of statues, the Four Last Things, represents death, judgment, heaven, and hell. They stand as silent sentinels, reminding the monks of the eternal nature of their work. Yet, despite the grandeur, there is a lightness here, an airy, ethereal quality that makes the heavy stone feel as buoyant as a cloud. The light pours in from 48 windows, reflecting off the gold leaf and the white spines of the books, creating a space that feels like it was built out of frozen sunlight. To be here is to feel elevated, as if the burdens of your body have been lifted, leaving you floating in a sea of white and gold. And as you float in that golden light, you feel your muscles growing heavy, sinking into the clouds, resting in the exquisite detail of the divine. From the heavenly heights of Admont, we sink down into the deep, earthy quiet of a forest in Norway. We are visiting the future library, a project that requires a level of patience that is almost beyond human comprehension. In a forest just outside Oslo, 1,000 trees have been planted. They are young now, their bark soft, their leaves whispering in the Nordic breeze. These trees are growing to become the paper for an anthology of books that will not be printed for 100 years. Every year, a celebrated author, like Margaret Atwood or David Mitchell, submits a manuscript to the project. But these manuscripts are not read. They are placed in a specially designed room in the New Dijkman Library, locked away in wooden drawers made from the very trees that were cleared to make room for the new forest. No one alive today will read these stories. They are a gift to the children of the future, a promise that a century from now there will still be readers, there will still be forests, and there will still be a need for stories. This is a library of time, a slow-motion miracle that asks us to think in centuries rather than seconds. The forest grows at its own pace, indifferent to our rush. Imagine the roots of those trees reaching deep into the dark, cool soil, anchoring themselves, drawing up the water, growing taller and stronger while you sleep. The scent of pine and damp earth follows us as we move toward a different kind of natural sanctuary. In the heart of the city of Stuttgart, Germany, we enter a space that feels like a temple of minimalism. The City Library of Stuttgart is a perfect cube, both inside and out. The interior is a vast 5-story open space painted entirely in a single shade of brilliant clinical white. There are no decorations here. There are no frescoes or gold leaf. There is only the geometry of the stairs and the colours of the book spines. The stairs are arranged in a complex Escher-like web crisscrossing the void. When you stand at the bottom and look up, the white walls seem to disappear into infinity. It is a place of total clarity. All the mental noise, the clutter of daily life, the static of the world is bleached away by the purity of the architecture. It feels like stepping into a fresh, unwritten page. The silence here is not heavy, but light, like the silence of a new snowfall. You can feel your mind expanding to fill the white space, becoming clear, becoming still, becoming empty of worry. This emptiness is a vessel, and as we move forward, that vessel begins to fill with the soft, warm light of 1,000 lamps. We are in the reading room of the Bibliothèque Nationale de France in Paris. This is the Salle Labrouste, a masterpiece of iron and glass. Imagine soaring, slender iron columns that blossom into 9 domed ceilings, each with an eye of glass looking up at the Parisian sky. The iron is painted a soft, mossy green, and the light that filters through the domes is soft and bluish, like the light at the bottom of a clear lake. The desks are long, made of polished oak, and each one is equipped with a green-shaded lamp that casts a warm, emerald glow over the workspace. This is the Forest of Iron, a place where the industrial age met the age of enlightenment. There is a profound sense of protection in this room, as if the iron skeleton of the building is holding the world at bay, creating a safe, climate-controlled garden for the mind. You can hear the faint, rhythmic scratching of pens and the soft sigh of the heating system, sounds that weave together into a tapestry of focus and calm. The iron columns of Paris morph into the ancient gnarled trunks of olive trees as we travel to the island of Crete. Here, we find the Library of the Olives. In a small village, an ancient olive press has been converted into a library. The stone basins that once held the crushed fruit and the heavy wooden screws of the press now stand alongside shelves of modern poetry and ancient philosophy. The air smells of dry earth and the ghostly lingering scent of olive oil, a rich, fatty, comforting aroma that speaks of the Mediterranean sun. Outside, the cicadas buzz in a steady hypnotic drone, a sound that has not changed since the time of Homer. Inside, the thick stone walls keep the interior cool and dim, a cave of culture in a land of fire. This is a library that honours the labour of the hands as much as the labour of the mind. It reminds us that knowledge is a form of nourishment, something to be pressed, refined, and savoured. As the sun sets over the Aegean, casting long violet shadows across the stone floor, you feel a deep, ancestral peace, a sense of belonging to a world that is old, wise, and very, very tired. And as that fatigue settles into your bones, you realise you're ready for the final journey of this batch, a journey into the sky. We end this passage at the Admont Abbey again, but this time we look at a specific detail: the secret doors that are not meant for people, but for the wind. In many ancient libraries, ventilation books were created, dummy books made of wood with holes drilled through them, placed strategically on the shelves to allow air to circulate behind the volumes, preventing the growth of mould and damp. They are the lungs of the library. Even when the doors are locked and the readers are gone, the library is breathing. Imagine that slow, rhythmic exchange of air, the library inhaling the cool night breeze and exhaling the warmth of the day. Your own breath has become that library wind, effortless, automatic, and peaceful. You're part of the architecture of the dream now. The shelves are full, the lights are dimming, and the world is quiet. You have nothing left to do but exist in this space of preserved thought, safe, warm, and deeply, deeply asleep. The rhythmic breathing of the library wind carries us now, drifting away from the frozen peaks of Svalbard and sinking softly and slowly into the deep, indigo silence of the North Atlantic. Imagine the weight of the water above you, a vast obsidian pressure that silences all sound save for the faint crystalline creak of the ocean floor. Here, in the ghost-white remains of the Titanic, lies a library that no human hand will ever touch again. Visualize the grand first-class lounge, where the walls were once panelled in rich, polished mahogany. The books are still there, resting in their cases, their leather covers preserved by the icy, oxygen-poor depths. They are encased in a fine silt, like a shroud of grey velvet. In this underwater tomb, the stories have become part of the shipwreck's skeleton. There is a profound, heavy peace in the thought of these books, untouchable, unreadable, yet existing in a state of eternal suspension. They are the ultimate secret library, a collection that belongs now only to the currents and the deep-sea creatures that glide past the portholes like flickers of silver light. The water here is still, moving with a slowness that makes a single minute feel like an hour, and as you watch the slow-motion dance of the deep, you feel your own limbs becoming heavy, as if you too are resting in a cradle of weightless, watery silence. The heavy pressure of the deep sea transforms into the protective strength of iron and stone as we rise from the depths to the banks of the Ottawa River in Canada. We're standing before the Library of Parliament, a Victorian Gothic jewel that survived a trial by fire. In 1916, a catastrophic blaze tore through the Parliament buildings, turning stone to ash and steel to liquid. but as the flames roared toward the library, a quick-thinking librarian slammed the massive double-iron doors shut. Picture those doors, cold, black, and unyielding. While the world outside was an inferno of orange and red, the books inside remained in a cool, dark sanctuary. When the fire was finally extinguished, the library stood alone amidst the ruins, its white marble statue of Queen Victoria untouched by soot, its shelves of dark oak still smelling of beeswax and history. To walk through those doors today is to feel the power of a shield. The air is thick and hushed, insulated by walls that have proven their strength against the elements. You are safe here, protected by the same iron resolve that saved these books. The flickering light of the chandeliers above casts soft, dancing shadows on the floor, and as you watch them, you realize that any spark of worry in your mind is being snuffed out by the cool, damp weight of the stone, leaving you calm, quiet, and secure. And as this feeling of safety anchors you deeper into your bed, you notice the rhythm of your heart has found a slow, steady pace, a reflection of the peace within these walls. The sturdiness of the iron doors dissolves into a vision of perfect crystalline symmetry. We find ourselves in Görlitz, Germany, at the Upper Lusatian Library of Sciences. Imagine a room that looks like a dream of a tunnel of books. The architecture is a series of white arched bays that repeat into infinity, creating a visual rhythm that is deeply hypnotic. The shelves are built into the arches, and the books are organised with such precision that they seem like part of the masonry itself. The floor is a dark, polished wood that reflects the white arches above, making it feel as if you are walking on water or floating through a hall of mirrors. There is no clutter here. There is only the repetition of form and the soft, diffused light that comes from the high windows. It is a space designed for the mind to lose its edges, to expand into the symmetry. As you walk down this tunnel of knowledge, the world outside becomes a distant, blurry memory. There is only the next arch, and the next, each one leading you further into a state of pure, mathematical tranquility. The silence is structured, orderly, and incredibly gentle, wrapping around you like a cocoon of white silk. This sense of order becomes a healing touch as we explore the concept of bibliotherapy. In some of the world's most forward-thinking clinics and libraries, books are not just read, they are prescribed. Imagine a pharmacy of stories, where a librarian doctor listens to the aches of your soul, your anxieties, your grief, your loneliness, and hands you a novel instead of a pill. The weight of the book in your hand is the first part of the cure. The texture of the paper, the steady pace of the narrative. It all works to re-regulate your nervous system. Science tells us that just 6 minutes of deep reading can reduce stress levels by 68%. It slows the heart rate and eases the tension in the muscles. Visualize the words on the page as a gentle flowing stream, washing over the jagged rocks of your thoughts, smoothing them down, turning them into soft, round pebbles. You're not just reading, you are being mended. The story acts as a surrogate for your own worries, carrying them for a while so that you can rest. And as you imagine yourself closing the cover of a finished book, you feel a profound sense of completion, a settling of the spirit that allows you to drift even deeper into the softness of your pillow. You're doing so well, just letting go, allowing the words to be your medicine, and as this knowledge settles, your breathing slows. The softness of the paper beneath your fingertips begins to change texture, becoming cooler, smoother, and more durable. We travel back to the ancient city of Pergamum, in what is now Turkey, to witness the birth of parchment. Legend tells us that the great library of Alexandria, jealous of Pergamum's growing collection, placed an embargo on papyrus to stop their rivals from making books. But the scholars of Pergamum did not give up. They turned to the hides of sheep and goats, refining a process to create charta pergamena, parchment. Imagine the feel of this material. It is creamy, slightly textured, and holds the coolness of the earth. Unlike papyrus, which is brittle and dry, parchment is supple and incredibly long-lived. To touch an ancient parchment scroll is to touch something that feels almost like skin. It is organic and enduring. The libraries of this era were open-air cathedrals of stone, where the scrolls were kept in niches called armaria. Picture the sunlight hitting the white marble of the columns, the air smelling of wild thyme and sun-baked dust. The scholars moved slowly through the heat, their sandals clicking softly on the stone floors, carrying the heavy, cool scrolls into the shade. There is a timelessness in this image, a sense that the pursuit of truth is as steady and unstoppable as the rising of the sun. That golden Mediterranean sun continues to shine, but it now illuminates a facade of breathtaking beauty in Ephesus. This is the Library of Celsus. Although it stands in ruins today, its spirit is preserved in the towering marble columns that reach toward the blue Turkish sky. Visualize the 4 statues that stand in the niches of the facade: Sophia for wisdom, Arete for virtue, Enoia for intelligence, and Epistem for knowledge. They are silent goddesses of the mind, their marble robes carved with such skill that they look like they might flutter in the breeze. The library was built not just to hold 12,000 scrolls, but as a monumental tomb for the senator Celsus, who lies in a lead coffin beneath the library floor. It is a place where life, death, and knowledge are woven together into a single, beautiful tapestry. The light at sunset turns the marble a deep, glowing apricot colour, and the shadows of the columns stretch long and thin across the dusty earth. It is a place of profound stillness, a ruin that feels more alive in its silence than a busy city. You can almost hear the whisper of the wind through the empty niches, a soft, hushing sound that invites you to lay down your thoughts and simply be. The grand, ancient scale of Ephesus begins to shift, becoming something playful and surreal. We find ourselves in Kansas City, Missouri, standing before a parking garage that has been transformed into a community bookshelf. Imagine a city street where the buildings are not made of brick and glass, but of giant 25-foot-tall book spines. To Kill a Mockingbird, The Lord of the Rings, Fahrenheit 451. They stand side by side, their titles etched in massive gold letters. It is a world where you are the size of an ant, walking past the giants of literature. This playful distortion of scale has a way of quieting the ego. When the world is this big and whimsical, your own problems feel small and manageable. The colours of the book spines are vibrant, deep reds, forest greens and royal blues, brightening the grey pavement of the city. It is a reminder that the library can exist anywhere, that it can burst out of its walls and transform the mundane world into a place of wonder. As you look up at these massive stories, you feel a sense of lightness, a playful ease that makes your eyelids feel heavy, and your mind feel wide and open. The giant books of the city begin to shrink, getting smaller and smaller, until they fit into the cosy, cramped interior of a vintage red phone booth. Across the countryside of England, these iconic booths, no longer needed for calls, are being reborn as the world's smallest libraries. Imagine a rainy night in a small village. The streets are dark and glistening, but there is a warm yellow glow coming from a phone booth on the corner. You pull open the heavy glass door, and the smell of old paper and damp wool envelops you. The shelves are packed tight, and there is a small sign that says, "Take a book, leave a book." It is the ultimate nook, a space so small that you can touch both walls at once. The sound of the rain tapping against the glass is muffled and rhythmic. Tap, tap, tap. A natural white noise that makes the interior feel even safer and more private. Within this tiny, glowing red box, the rest of the world ceases to exist. There is only you, the books, and the quiet comfort of the night. It is a miniature sanctuary, a secret pocket of peace in a vast world. This intimacy of a small space expands into the dark, brooding opulence of a private vault in New York City. We're at the Morgan Library and Museum, the former private study of J.P. Morgan. This is a room that feels like it was carved out of a ruby. The walls are lined with triple-tiered bookcases made of inlaid walnut, and the walls above them are covered in a lush, crimson silk damask. Visualize the fire crackling in the massive marble fireplace, the light reflecting off the steel door of the vault where the most precious manuscripts are kept. Original scores by Mozart, drawings by Leonardo da Vinci, and 3 Gutenberg Bibles. The air here is still and heavy, carrying the scent of expensive cigar tobacco and old, fine leather. The furniture is upholstered in red velvet, so soft that you sink inches into the cushions when you sit. It is a fortress of wealth and intellect, a place where the noise of the city outside is completely drowned out by the thickness of the walls and the richness of the fabric. In this red room, time feels stagnant and thick, like honey. Every movement is slowed down, every thought is muffled, leaving you in a state of luxurious velvety comfort. And as the red velvet fades to black, we move toward the final truth of this journey, the most profound silence of all. We enter the Orfield Labs in Minnesota, home to the quietest room on Earth, an anechoic chamber. It is not a library in the traditional sense, but it is the ultimate library of the self. The walls are lined with deep, jagged wedges of acoustic foam that absorb 99.99% of all sound. When you sit in this room in total darkness, the silence is so absolute that you can hear the internal workings of your own body. You hear the soft whoosh of the blood in your ears, the rhythmic thump-thump of your heart, the faint, high-pitched ring of your nervous system. It is the sound of life itself, stripped of all external distraction. In this room, you are the book, and your heartbeat is the text. It is a place of total sensory deprivation, where the mind finally stops looking outward and begins to rest inward. There is no echo, no reflection. Only the deep, dark, absolute stillness of your own being, and in that stillness you find the doorway to sleep. The silence is not empty, it is full of the peace you've been searching for. It is the final page of the day, and as it turns, you let go completely, drifting, sinking, and finally, falling into the deep, quiet library of your dreams. The absolute stillness of that anechoic chamber begins to ripple now, like a stone dropped into the centre of a dark moonlit pond. The ripples spread outward, carrying your consciousness away from the soundless dark and toward the warm amber glow of the ancient world. We find ourselves standing at the threshold of the Ramesseum, the great mortuary temple of Ramses II, where the desert sun bakes the sandstone until it radiates a heat you can feel in your very marrow. Above the entrance to the sacred library, an inscription is carved deep into the golden stone, the place of the cure of the soul. Visualize the dust motes dancing in the shafts of light that pierce the heavy shadowed colonnades. There are no scrolls here now, only the memory of them, but the air still carries a weight of profound healing. In ancient Egypt, a library was not a place of study alone. It was a pharmacy for the spirit. Every word written on papyrus was a poultice, every story a salve for the heart's hidden wounds. As you stand in this sun-drenched ruin, you can feel the ancient medicine working on you. The dry, warm air enters your lungs, expanding your chest with a sense of timeless relief. The cure is the realization that your story too is part of a vast and eternal archive. And as this realization settles, you find that your shoulders drop, your neck softens, and you allow the ancient sun to melt away the last of your resistance. The heat of the Egyptian sand begins to cool, transforming into the sleek, dark chill of a northern evening. We move from the ancient stone to the black diamond of Copenhagen, a library that rises from the harbour like a giant polished obsidian jewel. Imagine 2 massive cubes of black granite tilted slightly, their surfaces so smooth they reflect the grey-blue water of the canal like a mirror. As you approach, the glass facade reveals an interior of light and movement, but focus on the black granite itself. Feel its coolness against your palm, a dense, heavy presence that anchors the building to the earth. Inside, the walls are vast waves of white, curving upward like the sails of a phantom ship. There is a bridge that spans the gap between the old and the new, suspended in the air. When you stand on this bridge, you can hear the faint, muffled hum of the city outside, but it is filtered through layers of heavy glass and stone, turning the chaos into a rhythmic, oceanic pulse. The light here is silvery and sharp, reflecting off the dark stone and the moving water. It is a place where the weight of the dark granite holds the lightness of the glass in a perfect, silent balance. A balance you can feel within yourself. You are the diamond, dark and solid on the outside, yet filled with an interior light that reaches toward the sky. This balance of elements leads us away from the grand architecture of the city and into the intimate, whispering heart of a forest. Here, the library has abandoned stone and glass altogether, returning to the living wood. We find ourselves standing before a little free library that has been carved directly into the trunk of a massive fallen cedar tree. The bark is thick and furrowed, covered in a velvet coat of emerald moss. A small glass-paned door has been fitted into the hollow of the wood. When you open it, the scent of damp earth and cedar resin mingles with the familiar comforting smell of old paper. It is a tiny sanctuary, a secret exchange between the forest and the people who walk its paths. The squirrels and birds are the silent guardians of these books. Imagine the rain falling softly on the leaves above, a gentle patter-patter that never reaches the books inside their wooden home. The forest is a library that never stops growing, never stops breathing. Each ring in the wood is a page of history, and the books nestled within the trunk are like seeds, waiting for a mind to plant them in. As you breathe in the scent of the moss and the wood, your connection to the earth deepens. Your body feels as heavy and rooted as that ancient cedar, sinking into the soft, leaf-strewn floor of your own rest. And as you root yourself in this peace, you realize that your breath has found a natural, easy cycle, flowing in like the wind through the leaves and out like the receding tide. The intimate space of the tree stump expands suddenly, soaring upward into a cathedral of cast iron and light. We are standing in the George Peabody Library in Baltimore, often called a cathedral of books. Imagine looking up through a central atrium that rises 61 feet into the air. 5 tiers of ornamental cast iron balconies encircle the space, each one packed with books, their gold-leaf titles shimmering in the light from the massive skylight far above. The floor is a pattern of black and white marble, cool and pristine. The ironwork is painted a soft cream colour, intricately detailed with scrolls and leaves that look as delicate as lace, yet possess the strength of a mountain. There is a verticality to this place that pulls your gaze and your thoughts upward. It feels as though the weight of the world is being lifted off your chest, rising tier by tier until it dissipates into the clear light of the ceiling. The air is cool and still, held in place by the massive marble columns. It is a space of immense dignity and grace. You can feel the architecture supporting you, holding you in a grand, beautiful embrace that says, "You are important. Your thoughts are sacred. You are home." These soaring iron balconies of Baltimore begin to twist and turn, morphing into the dark, mysterious corridors of the Escorial in Spain. We are in the library of a king, a space of intense, somber beauty. But there is a secret in the way the books are kept here. Visualize the massive, dark wooden shelves, but as you look closer, you realize that you cannot see the titles. Every single book is shelved with its spine facing inward, toward the wall. All you can see are the edges of the pages, a uniform wall of gold-gilded paper. The library was organized this way to protect the delicate leather spines from the harsh sunlight, and to allow the pages to breathe. It creates an atmosphere of profound mystery. You're surrounded by thousands of stories, yet their names are hidden from you. To find a book, you must know its place. You must trust the librarian. You must trust the silence. The room is filled with a soft golden light that reflects off the gilded edges, making the walls seem to glow from within. It is a library of the interior, a reminder that the most valuable things we possess are often hidden from the world, kept safe in the quiet inner chambers of the soul. While the Escorial keeps its secrets in the dark wood, we find a different kind of mystery in the weightless void of the stars. We are drifting now, floating through the International Space Station. In this environment, where up and down have no meaning, the library is a collection of digital files and a few precious physical volumes held in place by strips of Velcro. Imagine a book floating in front of you, its pages fanning out like the wings of a white bird. There is no gravity to pull the paper down, no weight to tie your arms. You can read while hovering in midair, looking out of the cupola window at the vast curved horizon of the Earth below. The planet is a marble of brilliant blue and swirling white, set against the infinite blackness of space. The library in orbit is a symbol of human curiosity reaching its furthest point. The silence here is technological, the soft whir of fans, the beep of a computer, but it is surrounded by the absolute eternal silence of the vacuum. Reading here is an act of cosmic meditation. You are a tiny speck of consciousness carrying the stories of your ancestors into the great unknown, and as you watch the sun rise over the edge of the world 16 times a day, you feel a sense of profound perspective. A weightlessness of the spirit that allows you to float away from the gravity of your worries. And as you drift among the stars, notice how your eyelids have become as light as those floating pages, fluttering and finally closing as you settle into the orbit of a dream. The vastness of space begins to fold inward, returning to the most private library of all, the one inside your own mind. We are exploring the method of Lotse, the ancient art of the memory palace. Imagine a grand library that you have built entirely out of thought. You walk through its corridors, placing the things you want to remember on specific shelves. Perhaps a cherished memory is a crystal vase in a sunlit window. Perhaps a piece of knowledge is a heavy leather-bound book on a mahogany desk. In this library there is no decay. The ink never fades, and the pages never yellow. It is a space of perfect clarity and order. You can return here whenever you wish, walking the familiar halls, feeling the cool marble under your feet and the velvet of the curtains between your fingers. This internal library is a sanctuary that no one else can enter. It is your ultimate safe haven. As you walk through these mental halls, you find that the rooms are becoming dimmer, the lights are being turned down one by one, and the air is becoming soft and heavy with the scent of lavender and old dreams. You are the architect of this peace. The mental halls of your palace begin to weather and age, transforming into a library that has been reclaimed by the slow, relentless power of nature. We are in the ruins of a lost civilization, perhaps a manor house deep in the English countryside, or a forgotten monastery in the mountains. The roof has long since fallen, and the sky is now the ceiling. Trees grow through the floorboards, their branches reaching up to touch the remaining stone arches. The bookshelves are still there, but they are draped in a thick living curtain of ivy. Ferns sprout from the tops of the encyclopedias, and wildflowers bloom in the gaps between the poetry. This is the Green Library, where the distinction between human thought and the natural world has dissolved. It is a place of beautiful decay. The stories are returning to the earth, their paper becoming soil, their ink becoming the nourishment for the roots of the trees. There is no sadness here, only a deep sense of the cycle of life. It is the ultimate rest, the point where the work is finished and the rest begins. You can hear the wind whispering through the ivy, a soft, sibilant sound that lulls you into a state of total surrender. This scent of damp earth and growth leads us to a library that captures the very essence of memory. The Olmetek in Versailles, France. It is a library of fragrances. Here, instead of books, the shelves are filled with thousands of small dark glass vials. Each vial contains a scent. Some are the great perfumes of history, now lost to time, while others are the simple smells of daily life from centuries ago. Imagine a librarian opening a vial and releasing the scent of a Roman garden, or the smell of a medieval marketplace, or the perfume worn by a queen long since turned to dust. Scent is the shortest path to memory. It bypasses the logical mind and speaks directly to the heart. As you imagine these scents, the sharp tang of citrus, the heavy sweetness of jasmine, the smoky depth of sandalwood, you feel your memories drifting and blending, becoming a soft, fragrant mist that envelops you. You are breathing in the past, and it is making you feel calm, safe, and deeply, deeply relaxed. Finally, we leave the world of scent and stone for the digital heart of the modern age. We're standing in a massive data center, the physical home of the World Digital Library. The room is a vast, echoing hall of blue and white lights. Thousands of servers hum in a steady, low-frequency vibration that you can feel in your chest. This is the modern library, a place where the information does not sit on a shelf, but pulses through fibre optic cables at the speed of light. The air is cool and filtered, moving in a constant artificial breeze. There is something hypnotic about the rhythmic blinking of the lights. Blue, white, blue, white, like a digital heartbeat. It is a library of pure energy, a place where all the knowledge of humanity is held in a state of constant humming readiness. It is the final layer of our journey, the transition from the physical to the ethereal. As you listen to the hum of the servers, it becomes a mantra, a steady, unchanging sound that blocks out all other noise. You are part of the network now, a single point of light in a vast, glowing web of information. The hum carries you away, deeper and deeper, into the silent digital void, where the stories end and the dreams begin. The digital hum of the servers, that steady electric vibration of the modern age, slowly begins to dissolve, replaced by the deep, resonant silence of the desert night. We travel now to the foot of Mount Sinai, where the rocks are the colour of burnt sienna and the stars feel close enough to touch. Here lies the monastery of St. Catherine, the oldest continually operating library in the world. Imagine walls of immense red granite thick enough to hold the heat of the day long into the shivering cold of the night. Within these fortress-like walls, monks have guarded the Codex Sinaiticus and thousands of other ancient manuscripts for over 15 centuries. The air inside the library is dry and still, tasting of ancient dust and the faint, sweet smoke of frankincense. The books here are not on shelves as we know them. They are tucked into niches in the stone, their vellum pages holding the whispers of Greek, Syriac and Arabic scholars. The light is provided by small arched windows that frame a sky of impossible blue. To sit here is to feel the weight of deep time, a sense that while the world outside changes its face 1,000 times, this room remains a fixed point in the turning of the earth. You're standing in the cradle of the written word, and the silence is so profound it feels like a physical presence, pressing gently against your skin, encouraging you to let go of the present and sink into the eternal. The red granite of the desert softens and flows, turning into the cool, blue-tiled beauty of Baghdad during its golden age. We are drifting through the House of Wisdom, the Beit al-Hikmah. Imagine a city of gardens and fountains, where the sound of running water is the background music to every thought. In this library, the greatest minds of the world gathered to translate the knowledge of the Greeks, the Persians and the Indians into Arabic. The ink used by the scribes was made from soot and gall nuts, a deep, midnight black that flowed onto the creamy paper like silk. Legend says that during the siege of the city, so many books were thrown into the Tigris River that the water ran black with ink for days, a literal river of knowledge. But in our dream, the library is still whole. We walk through courtyards filled with the scent of jasmine and orange blossoms, the sunlight filtered through intricate geometric screens that cast patterns of shadow and light across the marble floors. Every book here is a bridge between cultures, a testament to the idea that we're all part of a single human story. And as you breathe in the perfume of the garden, you feel your own mind becoming a bridge, crossing over from the day's tasks into the night's tranquility, drifting, floating, and calm. And as this knowledge of the past settles into your spirit, your breathing slows, deeper now, finding the rhythm of the water. Yes, just like that. The warm gardens of Baghdad fade into the cool democratic light of the north. We find ourselves in Stockholm, Sweden, standing at the centre of the Stockholm Public Library. This is a space built as a perfect circle, a rotunda of books. Imagine standing at the very centre of the room and turning slowly in a full circle. For 360 degrees, you're surrounded by 3 tiers of books, their colourful spines creating a textured wall of human imagination. There are no corners here, no places for shadows to hide. The light comes from high above, from a ring of windows that let in the soft white light of the Swedish sky. The architect Gunnar Asplund designed this room to be a temple of the people, where knowledge is accessible to all, organised in a perfect egalitarian curve. The acoustics of the cylinder create a unique, muffled sound, as if the books themselves are absorbing the echoes of your footsteps. It feels like being inside a giant paper heart. As you orbit the room with your gaze, you feel a sense of completeness, a realization that everything you need is within reach, contained within this perfect wooden circle. Your thoughts begin to orbit with the books, round and round, until they settle into a steady, peaceful rotation. While the circle of Stockholm offers clarity, the iron spirals of Amsterdam offer a different kind of grandeur. We are now in the Kuipers Library, located within the Rijksmuseum. This is a library that feels like it was painted by the Dutch masters themselves. The room is a deep, rich brown, with towering wooden shelves and delicate wrought iron railings that spiral upward like the tendrils of a vine. The air smells of linseed oil and old floor wax. High above, the ceiling is a series of intricate skylights and painted crests, casting a soft, theatrical light over the long oak reading tables. This is where art and literature meet. You can imagine a scholar from the 19th century sitting in one of the heavy velvet-lined chairs, surrounded by the same books that inform the painters whose works hang in the galleries nearby. The iron staircases are so narrow and elegant they seem to defy gravity, inviting you to climb into the heights of the rafters, where the oldest, rarest volumes sleep. The silence here is thick and respectful, a heavy velvet curtain that shuts out the modern world. You're tucked away in a corner of history, safe and undisturbed, while the golden light of the afternoon fades into a soft charcoal grey. The visual beauty of the iron and wood begins to recede, and we move into a world where the eyes rest and the skin takes over. We are exploring the library of the fingertips, the world of Braille. Imagine a library where the pages are not white, but a landscape of texture. Close your eyes and visualize a heavy cream-coloured sheet of paper. As you run your hand across it, you feel a constellation of tiny raised dots. This is not just information, it is a tactile dance. For a person reading Braille, the story is felt. The dots represent a secret language of touch, a map of meaning that moves from the fingertips directly to the imagination. In this library, the silence is even deeper, for the act of reading is entirely silent. No rustle of paper, no scratching of pens. It is a world of pure physical connection. You can feel the patterns, the rhythm of the sentences, the pauses and the breaths of the author, all through the sensitivity of your skin. This focus on touch grounds you in your body. Feel the weight of your hands, the texture of your blankets. You feel the world around you. You realise that it is time to rest. And as you feel the world around you, you realise you are perfectly safe, perfectly still. And as this knowledge settles, your breathing slows, deeper and heavier. Yes. The intimate, tactile world of Braille expands into a modern-day colosseum of glass and greenery. We are in the Vancouver Public Library, The building is a massive circular structure of warm sand-coloured stone surrounded by a glass-walled promenade. But the true magic of this library is on its roof. Imagine a hanging garden in the middle of a bustling city. Thousands of blue fescue grass and kinnikinic plants create a soft, swaying meadow in the sky. When you stand on the roof, you can hear the distant hum of the city, but it is muffled by the thickness of the soil and the rustle of the grasses. The architecture is designed to look like a ruin from the future, a place where nature is slowly reclaiming the structures of man. The light filters through the glass walls, illuminating the reading nooks that look out over the urban forest. It is a library that breathes with the city, yet remains a sanctuary of peace. While the greenery of the library roof flourishes, your own thoughts begin to bloom with the same quiet energy, growing slower, becoming greener and more serene. From the modern glass of Vancouver, we travel to the heart of Madrid, to the Real Academia Española. This is a library dedicated to the purity and the evolution of the Spanish language. Visualize a room draped in crimson velvet and gold leaf. The shelves are made of the finest mahogany, holding every dictionary and grammar ever produced for the Spanish tongue. This is a vault of words. The air is cool and smells of expensive leather and old paper, a combination that feels like a physical weight on your shoulders. Not a heavy weight, but a comforting one, like a thick winter coat. The chairs are upholstered in deep red leather, and the tables are topped with green felt, muting the sound of every movement. This is where the language is guarded, where every word is polished and preserved. There is a sense of great dignity here, a feeling that you are in the presence of something larger than yourself. The words are silent on the shelves, but they hold the power of millions of voices. As you sit in the silence of this red room, you feel the power of your own voice fading into a whisper and then into a silence as you surrender to the beauty of the unspoken. The weight of the Spanish dictionaries dissolves into the infancy of the printed book. We are entering the world of the incunabula. This term refers to books printed before the year 1501, during the cradle period of the printing press. Imagine a room filled with books that are half manuscript, half print. The text is set by hand with heavy lead type, but the illustrations and the capital letters are still hand-painted by artists in gold and cinnabar. These books are the children of the Gutenberg Revolution. To touch one is to touch the very moment the world changed. The paper is thick and handmade, with visible watermarks of crowns and bulls' heads. The ink is rich and oily, standing out in slight relief on the page. These books were meant to last for centuries, and they have. They possess a sturdy, tactile honesty. They are not mass-produced objects. They are individual works of art, each one carrying the fingerprints of the printers who made them. In this library of the cradle, you can feel a sense of new beginnings. The world is being born again through the press, and you are there to witness the quiet, mechanical heartbeat of the future. This heartbeat carries us away from the European press and back to the shifting sands of Africa. We are in Timbuktu, searching for the desert chests. For centuries, the families of Timbuktu have hidden thousands of ancient manuscripts in their homes, under floorboards, in mud brick walls, and in heavy wooden chests. These are the hidden libraries of the Sahara. Imagine a chest made of dark, weathered wood, its iron hinges rusted by the desert air. When you lift the lid, you find a treasure trove of handwritten books on astronomy, medicine, and law, their covers made of goat skin, their pages written in a graceful, flowing calligraphy. As the desert wind hums outside, your heart rate settles into a steady, peaceful rhythm. The people of Timbuktu have risked everything to protect these books from war and the encroaching sand. They are a library of resilience. The scent of the desert, dry, clean, and ancient, fills the room. You realize that knowledge, like the sand, is patient. It can wait for centuries in the dark, and it will still be there when the light returns. You can let your own knowledge rest in the dark for a while, safe in the chest of your subconscious, protected from the wind. Finally, we leave the earth entirely and travel to the library of the heavens, We are in the archives of the Harvard College Observatory, looking at the glass plates. Before digital cameras, astronomers mapped the stars on sheets of glass coated with a light-sensitive emulsion. Imagine a room filled with hundreds of thousands of these glass plates, each one holding a tiny frozen fragment of the night sky from 100 years ago. When you hold a plate up to the light, you see a negative image. The sky is white, and the stars are tiny, black pinpricks of light. These plates were analysed by computers, women like Henrietta Swan Leavitt, who spent their lives measuring the brightness of the stars by hand. This is a library of light. Each plate is a moment in time, a record of a star that might not even exist anymore. To be here is to realise that the universe itself is a library, and we are just beginning to read the first few pages. The glass is cool and smooth in your hands, a physical connection to the infinite. As you look through the glass at the black stars, the boundaries of your room dissolve. You're floating in the archive of the cosmos. The stars are silent, the glass is cold, and the universe is vast. You're small, you are safe, and you are part of the light. Drift now, into the glass, into the stars, into the deep celestial quiet of the end of the world. The starlight captured on those ancient glass plates begins to pull at the fabric of the night, stretching and thinning until the blackness of space becomes the soft, misty grey of a mountain morning. We're rising now, ascending far above the clouds to the jagged sandstone peaks of Meteora in Greece. Here, perched atop pillars of rock that seem to reach for the heavens, are monasteries that hold the world's most secluded libraries. Visualize the wind whistling softly through the narrow stone corridors. A cool, thin air that carries the scent of wild mountain herbs and ancient incense. In these libraries, the monks were once hoisted up in nets or climbed long swaying ladders to reach their sanctuary. The books here are guarded by the very height of the earth. Imagine a small wooden desk positioned by a window that looks out over a precipice. The valley floor far below shrouded in a blanket of white fog. The light is pale and pearlescent, softening the edges of the hand-copied manuscripts. There is a profound sense of isolation here, but it is not a lonely feeling. It is a protective one. The world and its noise cannot reach this altitude. You're tucked away in a fortress of stone and sky, where the only task is to watch the slow movement of the sun across the page. As you breathe in the crisp, high-altitude air, you feel a lightness in your chest, a suspension of all your earthly weights, allowing you to float in the silent mountain stillness. The thin, cool air of the Greek peaks begins to warm and thicken, carrying us across the oceans to the southern hemisphere. We descend into the golden Victorian warmth of the Mortlock Wing in the State Library of South Australia. Imagine a room that feels like a rich, mahogany dream. The walls are lined with 2 stories of dark, polished wood shelves, accessible by delicate wrought iron balconies. The floor is a polished expanse that reflects the warm glow of the brass lamps scattered across the long reading tables. This is a place of deep amber shadows and the soft rhythmic ticking of a grandfather clock in the distance. The air smells of beeswax and expensive leather, a scent that anchors you to the ground, making you feel steady and secure. The light here is syrupy and slow, catching the gold-embossed titles on the spines of the books. It is a room designed for the slow passage of time, a space where the 19th century has never ended. You can feel the sturdiness of the furniture, the thickness of the carpet, the heavy velvet silence that wraps around you like a warm cloak. You're safe in this wooden embrace, shielded from the rush of the modern world, and as you settle into this Victorian comfort, you feel the tension leaving your hands, your fingers softening as you drift deeper into the archive of your own rest. Yes, just like that. The polished wood of Australia dissolves into the dry, sun-baked textures of the Sahara. We find ourselves in Chinguetti, Mauritania, the city of libraries that is slowly being reclaimed by the desert. Here, the libraries are small, humble stone buildings with heavy wooden doors, holding the scientific and poetic legacy of the Islamic world. Visualize the desert sand piling up against the walls, a soft, relentless tide of gold. Inside, the ancient manuscripts are not kept on shelves, but are piled in niches or kept in traditional boxes to protect them from the fine, pervasive dust. The paper is brittle, and the colour of toasted almonds, decorated with intricate calligraphy in red and black ink. The air is hot and dry, but inside the thick stone walls there is a cool, shadowed peace. You can hear the faint, dry rustle of the sand against the door, a hypnotic, whispering sound that speaks of the vastness of time. These books have survived for centuries in one of the harshest environments on Earth. They are a testament to the endurance of the human spirit. As you watch the golden dust motes dance in a single shaft of sunlight, you feel a sense of profound patience. Like the desert, you can wait. You can exist in this quiet, sun-drenched stillness, letting the world shift around you while you remain centered and calm. The heat of the Sahara begins to soften and cool, transforming into the lush, humid atmosphere of a tropical dream. We're in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, standing before the breathtaking facade of the Real Gabinete Português de Leitura. This is a library of neo-Manueline splendour, a space that looks like it was carved out of a single dark forest. Imagine a room that stretches upward, the walls entirely covered from floor to ceiling in dark, intricately carved wood shelves. The woodwork is so detailed it looks like lace, arches, spires, and floral motifs that create a dense Gothic landscape of shadows. The light filters through a massive octagonal skylight of stained glass, casting patterns of blue, red, and violet across the floor. In the centre of the room stands a monumental silver chandelier, its many arms reaching out like the branches of a mythical tree. The air is cool and carries the faint, sweet scent of tropical wood and old paper. To be here is to be inside a jewel box. A dark, shimmering sanctuary of beauty. You can feel your eyes being drawn up to the heights of the shelves, where the thousands of books seem to form a solid wall of knowledge. It is a space of immense grandeur that somehow feels intimate and private. A secret garden of the mind where you can hide away and listen to the rain drumming softly on the glass far above. As that rhythmic drumming of the rain settles into a steady, hypnotic pulse, your breathing finds the same easy cadence, in and out, as natural as the weather. And as this knowledge settles, your breathing slows. The dark, intricate wood of Rio begins to age and weather, turning into the raw, unpolished stone of a cave. We are travelling back 1,000 years to the Magao caves in Dunhuang, China, along the ancient Silk Road. We're standing before the library cave. For nearly 1,000 years, this small stone chamber was walled up and forgotten, hidden behind a painted fresco. When it was finally opened, it revealed a treasure trove of 50,000 manuscripts, paintings, and textiles, preserved in the dry, still air of the desert. Imagine the silence of that room during its 1,000-year sleep. A silence so absolute it becomes a physical weight. The walls are covered in ancient Buddhist paintings, serene faces and flowing robes in shades of ochre, lapis, and cinnabar. The manuscripts are scrolls of fine paper and silk, written in a dozen different languages, holding the secrets of a world that has long since vanished. The air is cool and smells of ancient stone and dry earth. There is no movement here, no sound, no passage of time. It is a pocket of eternity. As you visualize yourself sitting in the center of this cave surrounded by the wisdom of 1,000 years, you feel a profound sense of stillness. The hurry of your life cannot find you here. You are sealed in a chamber of peace, protected by the mountain, cradled by the desert, and held in the long, quiet memory of the earth. The stillness of the cave begins to shimmer and glow, transforming into the radiant Rococo splendour of the Abbey Library of St. Gall in Switzerland. We have moved from the cave to a palace of the mind. Imagine a ceiling that is a masterpiece of frescoes and stucco work. cherubs and clouds and celestial visions framed by intricate gilded carvings. The floor is made of inlaid wood in complex geometric patterns that seem to move as you walk across them. The bookshelves are not just shelves, they are works of art, with curved fronts and delicate pillars of dark, polished wood. Above the entrance, a Greek inscription reminds us that this is a pharmacy for the soul. The light is bright and clear, reflecting off the white plaster and the gold leaf, creating a space that feels celebratory and light. The air is clean and cool, carrying the faint scent of old wood and the mountain air of the Alps. There is a joy in this architecture, a sense that knowledge is a source of light and beauty. As you look up at the painted heavens on the ceiling, you feel a sense of expansion. As if your mind is opening up to catch the light, becoming as vast and airy as the cathedral itself. This sense of infinite expansion leads us away from the physical world and into the purely philosophical. We are entering the Library of Babel, the conceptual masterpiece of Jorge Luis Borges. Imagine a library that is the universe itself. It consists of an infinite number of hexagonal galleries, each with 4 walls of bookshelves. The shelves contain every possible combination of the 25 basic characters, every book that has ever been written, and every book that could ever be written. There are books of pure gibberish, and books that contain the true history of the future. The library is infinite, and because it is infinite, it is also perfectly still. Visualize yourself walking from one hexagon to the next, the identical rooms stretching out in every direction, up, down, and sideways. There is a strange, hypnotic peace in this infinity. It is a world where everything is already known, where every story already exists. You don't have to search for anything. You don't have to do anything. You're simply a passenger in an endless, beautiful labyrinth of thought. The silence is the silence of the absolute, a space where the noise of the individual mind is drowned out by the vast humming music of the total. And as you drift through these infinite hexagons, you realize that there is no end and no beginning, only the steady, peaceful flow of the present moment, and your breathing reflects this infinity, deep and effortless. The abstract hexagonal light of Babel begins to reflect off the moving dark green water of a canal. We have arrived in Venice, at the Biblioteca Marciana. The city is a masterpiece of marble rising out of the sea. Imagine the sound of the water lapping gently against the stone foundations, a rhythmic liquid sound that underpins the silence of the reading room. The library is a monument to the Renaissance, with grand arches and statues of ancient philosophers looking out over the Piazza San Marco. Inside, the ceilings are heavy with gold and the paintings of Titian and Veronese. The air is slightly salt-tangled, carrying the breath of the Adriatic Sea. There is a constant battle here between the precious paper and the rising tide, but within the library walls there is a sense of victory. The books are held high above the water, their leather covers cool and smooth. The light is the unique shimmering light of Venice, a light that bounces off the water and dances on the ceiling in ripples of gold. To be here is to be in a city that is slowly sinking, yet the knowledge it holds remains buoyant and eternal. You feel the weight of your body settling into the chair, as steady as the marble columns, while your mind floats on the gentle rhythmic pulse of the tide. The shimmering water of Venice dissolves into the sharp, modern geometry of the Library of Birmingham in England. We move from the ancient sea to a palace of golden rings. The building is wrapped in a delicate metal lattice of interlocking circles reflecting the city's industrial heritage. Inside, the space is a vertical journey of yellow escalators and light-filled rotundas. But at the very top, tucked away like a secret treasure, is the Shakespeare Memorial Room. Imagine a room moved piece by piece from a Victorian library and placed at the heart of this modern cube. It is a space of dark, carved wood and glass-fronted cases, holding one of the world's most important Shakespeare collections. From the windows, you can look out over the modern city, But inside, you're surrounded by the language of the Elizabethans. The contrast is a bridge across time. The air is still and smells of old wood and the faint ozone scent of the city. It is a place where the old world and the new world meet and find a common silence. As you watch the sun set over the city, casting long golden shadows through the metal rings, you feel a sense of harmony, a realization that you can belong to both the past and the future at the same time. Finally, we descend from the heights of the city into the cool, mechanical heart of the modern university library. We are witnessing the ASRS, the automated storage and retrieval system. Imagine a vast windowless vault beneath the earth, filled with thousands of metal bins. There are no humans here and no lights. The books live in total darkness, a perfect environment for their preservation. When a book is requested, a robotic arm moves with silent surgical precision through the dark, gliding along a steel rail. It finds the bin, pulls it out, and brings it to the surface. Visualize the smooth, effortless movement of the machine, the quiet hum of the motors, the lack of any wasted motion. It is a library of pure efficiency. The books are sleeping in their bins, waiting for their moment in the light. This mechanical rhythm is deeply soothing, a steady, reliable heartbeat that takes the work out of searching. The machine does the work so that you can rest. In this underground vault, the temperature is always perfect, the air is always clean, and the silence is absolute. You are part of this perfect system now. You're safe in your own quiet bin of rest, knowing that when you are needed, the world will find you. But for now, the robots are still. The lights are off, and the dark is a soft, heavy blanket that pulls you down, deeper and deeper, into the perfect mechanical peace of a dreamless sleep. The mechanical precision of the underground robots drifts into the background, a soft hum that transforms into the rustle of 1,000 twigs, swaying in a gentle mountain breeze. We travel now to the outskirts of Beijing, to a place where the library has forgotten it's a building and remembered it is a forest. This is the Liyuan Library. Imagine a structure wrapped entirely in a skin of fruit tree branches, thousands of sticks of varying lengths and thicknesses gathered from the surrounding hills. Visualize the light as it tries to enter. It doesn't pour in through clear panes, it filters through the chaotic organic lattice of the wood, breaking into a million tiny golden needles of radiance. The interior is a landscape of steps and terraces, all made of light-coloured, unfinished timber that still carries the faint resinous scent of the woods. There is no paint here, no plastic, no harsh chemicals. Only the wood, the glass, and the sun. When you sit on one of the integrated wooden benches, the light dappling your skin makes you feel as if you are resting beneath a canopy of ancient oaks. The world outside the glass is a reflection of the world inside. The river flows past the window, its rhythmic gurgle a natural white noise that matches the slow pace of your thoughts. Here, the boundary between the book and the tree is porous. You are reading in the heart of the landscape, and the landscape is reading you. As the sun moves across the sky, the patterns of shadow on the floor shift and dance, a slow-motion choreography of light that lulls your eyes into a state of soft focus, leaving you feeling grounded, natural, and profoundly at peace. The earthy scent of the mountain forest begins to cool and thin, turning into the sharp, crystalline clarity of the North Atlantic. We move from the wood of China to the glass and ice of Stykkishólmur, Iceland. We are standing in the Vatnajöfn, the Library of Water. Imagine a room perched on a cliff overlooking the sea, filled with 24 towering glass columns. Each column is a transparent pillar that reaches from the floor to the ceiling, but they do not hold books. They hold water. Specifically, they hold the melted remains of Iceland's ancient glaciers. Each column contains water from a different ice flow. Some are clear as diamonds, others carry the fine grey silt of volcanic ash, and others have a faint blue tint that seems to glow from within. As the light from the low Arctic sun hits the glass, the room becomes a cathedral of reflections. The water acts as a lens, bending the light and the view of the ocean outside. There is a deep geological silence in this room. You're surrounded by the liquid memory of thousands of years, ice that fell as snow before the first human ever set foot on this island. The columns are still and heavy, their weight anchoring the room to the rock. As you watch the subtle movements of the silt trapped in the glass, you feel your own internal rhythm slowing down to match the pace of the glaciers. You're a vessel of light, cool, clear, and quiet. And as you stand among these pillars of frozen time, you notice your breath is becoming as steady and deep as the tides below. And as this knowledge settles, your breathing slows. Yes, just like that. The liquid light of Iceland begins to darken, turning into the rich shadowed textures of the Middle Ages. We travel to the town of Zutphen in the Netherlands, to the Librairie, the chained library. This is a place where the floorboards tell the oldest stories. Imagine a room where the sunlight is filtered through green-tinted glass, casting a mossy underwater glow over the heavy oak desks. The books here are massive, bound in thick leather and reinforced with iron studs, and they are chained to the desks by long hand-forged links. But look down at the floor. The tiles are made of red clay, and they are covered in strange, irregular marks. Legend says these are the devil's footprints scorched into the floor centuries ago. In reality, they are the impressions of those who stood here in the silence, their weight pressing into the clay before it was fully cured. There is something deeply moving about these traces of the past. You're standing where thousands have stood before, all of them searching for the same thing, a moment of quiet, a spark of understanding. The air is cool and smells of iron, old dust and damp stone. The chains clink softly when a book is moved, a metallic rhythmic sound that feels like the ticking of a medieval clock. The weight of the chains is a reminder of the value of the words. You're in a vault of heavy truths, and that weight is comforting. It holds you down, it keeps you from drifting away, letting you sink into the history of the room. The heavy iron and red clay of the Netherlands begin to dissolve, replaced by the warm, sun-baked red of ancient brick. We're in Bihar, India, standing amidst the sprawling ruins of Nalanda. Long before the great universities of Europe existed, Nalanda was a beacon of the mind, a monastic city that held 9 million books in a library called Dharmaganja, the mart of knowledge. Visualize the scale of the ruins, thousands of small brick cells where monks once meditated and studied, the walls glowing a deep sunset orange. The library was said to be so vast it consisted of 3 massive buildings, one of which was 9 stories high, reaching up into the clouds. There is a specific kind of silence here, the silence of an intellectual powerhouse that has returned to the earth. The air is warm and carries the scent of dry grass and ancient dust. As you walk through the arched doorways, you can almost hear the ghostly murmur of 10,000 students debating the nature of the void. The brickwork is intricate and sturdy, a mountain of human effort. To be here is to feel the gravity of the past, the sheer density of the thoughts that were once gathered in this spot. It is a place of profound intellectual rest. The sun sets over the ruins, casting long geometric shadows across the courtyards, and as the light fades, you feel your own mind settling into the dark, warm comfort of the earth. This sunset glow over the bricks of India begins to transition into the elegant blue dusk of a Parisian evening. We are standing before the Bibliothèque Sainte-Geneviève. The facade is carved with the names of 810 great thinkers, but it is the interior that holds the magic. Imagine a reading room that is a triumph of the industrial age. 2 long vaulted aisles are supported by a slender, lacy skeleton of cast iron. The arches are painted a pale, misty grey, and they seem to float above the rows of green-shaded lamps. When the sun goes down, the lamps are turned on, and the room is transformed into a forest of emerald light. The iron columns look like the trunks of delicate metallic trees, their branches interlacing far above your head. The air is hushed and carries the faint metallic scent of the iron and the ozone of the city. There is a rhythmic quality to the space, the repeated arches, the rows of identical chairs, the steady green glow of the lamps. It is a space of perfect industrial grace. You can feel the city of Paris moving outside the walls, but inside the iron cage protects you. You are in a sanctuary of logic and light, and the symmetry of the room acts as a lullaby for your brain, smoothing out the jagged edges of your day until everything is as orderly and elegant as a line of poetry. And as you rest in this emerald glow, you realize that you have nowhere else to be, no more names to remember, and as this knowledge settles, your breathing slows, deeper and heavier. Yes. The grand iron scale of Paris begins to shrink, getting smaller and smaller, until it becomes the size of a wooden box perched on a rural fence post. We're exploring the mailbox libraries of the deep countryside. Imagine a lonely road at twilight, where the only sound is the chirping of crickets and the distant lowing of cattle. Every few miles, a repurposed mailbox stands by the road, painted in bright, cheerful colours. When you pull down the metal flap, you don't find letters or bills. You find a handful of well-worn paperbacks. These are the smallest nodes in the global library network. They are intimate and anonymous. You can feel the texture of the weathered wood and the cool metal of the handle. The books inside smell of wood smoke and the fresh, open air. There is a profound sense of community in these tiny boxes, a silent conversation between neighbours who may never meet. As you imagine yourself placing a book inside and closing the door, you feel a sense of completion. The story is safe. The box is closed. The night is quiet. The scale of the world has become small and manageable, and that smallness is a comfort. You can fit your whole life into this moment of quiet exchange, and as you drift away from the road, the darkness of the country night folds over you like a thick down quilt. The warmth of the countryside night begins to turn into a deep crystalline blue, the colour of ancient pressurized ice. We travel to the bottom of the world, to the ice core archives of Antarctica. This is a library where the books are cylinders of ice, thousands of feet long, pulled from deep within the polar cap. Visualize a walk-in freezer the size of a warehouse, filled from floor to ceiling with silver canisters. Inside each canister is a piece of the past. The ice is a record of the Earth's atmosphere from hundreds of thousands of years ago. When a scientist reads these cores, they are looking at tiny bubbles of air trapped in the ice, bubbles that contain the breath of a world that existed before the last ice age. The light in the archive is a cold, clinical blue, reflecting off the frost-covered metal. The air is perfectly still and so cold it feels like a physical presence against your skin. This is the ultimate archive of the planet, a place where time is physically frozen. To think of these ice cores is to think in geological time. Your own life is a single snowflake on top of a mountain of history. There is a strange, cold peace in this perspective. The world is old and it remembers everything. You can let go of your own tiny moment and rest in the vast, frozen memory of the Earth. The cold, blue silence of the ice archive begins to shift and warm, turning into the dark, scholarly shadows of the Morn Library at King's College London. Imagine a room that is a perfect hexagon, built of golden stone and dark oak. This was once the Rolls Chapel, and it still carries the atmosphere of a sacred space. The walls are lined with medieval-style lancet windows, and the ceiling is a stunning, multi-pointed star of carved wood. But the true centerpiece is the round room. Visualize a circular space with a soaring glass dome, where the bookshelves radiate outward like the spokes of a wheel. The light from the dome is soft and diffused, catching the dust motes that drift in the air like tiny golden ghosts. This is the kind of library that feels like it belongs in a story of magic. The acoustics are strange and wonderful. A whisper in one corner can sometimes be heard perfectly in another. The air is heavy and smells of old parchment and the stone of the city. As you sit in the centre of the hexagon, you feel as though you are at the heart of a great intellectual engine. The room is a compass, pointing in every direction toward knowledge. The symmetry and the history of the space wrap around you, creating a sense of timelessness, a feeling that you are a small part of a great ongoing conversation. This scholarly silence begins to vibrate and hum, transforming into a library that you listen to rather than read. We're in the British Library Sound Archive. Imagine a room filled not with books, but with millions of discs, tapes and cylinders. This is the memory of the world's ears. Visualize the shelves of silver reels and dark vinyl records. When you put on a pair of heavy velvet padded headphones, the silence of the library is replaced by the sounds of the past. You can hear the voice of a poet who died a century ago, the song of an extinct bird from a tropical forest, the roar of a vanished city, the first crackling recording of a human voice. It is a library of ghosts and echoes. The act of listening is a deep internal process. As the sounds fill your head, your eyes close and your imagination takes over. You're travelling through time on a wave of sound, the rhythmic scratching of a needle on a record, the steady hiss of a tape. These are the heartbeats of history. The sounds are a bridge to a world you can no longer see, and that bridge is a safe and steady path. You're being carried by the voices of the past, lulled by the music of the earth, and as the sounds fade into a soft white noise, you find that your own internal dialogue has also gone quiet. Finally, we leave the atmosphere of the earth entirely, moving out into the silent, eternal void between the stars. We are following the Voyager 1 spacecraft, which carries the ultimate library, the Golden Record. Imagine a gold-plated copper disc, etched with the sounds and images of Earth, protected by a cover of pure gold. It is a message in a bottle cast into the cosmic ocean. It contains the greetings of 55 languages, the sound of a mother's first kiss to her child, the heartbeat of a person in love, and the music of Bach and Mozart. It is a library for an audience that may never exist. Visualize the record as it drifts through the blackness, a tiny glittering spark of human identity in the infinite dark. There is no air here, no sound, no friction. The record will last for billions of years, outliving the Earth itself. It is a library of hope. To think of the Golden Record is to realize that we are part of something that will never truly end. Our voices, our music, our love. It is all out there, etched in gold, travelling toward the stars. The blackness of space is not a scary place. It is a vast, quiet library where the stars are the lamps. You're drifting with the Voyager, silent, weightless, and eternal. The journey is long, the path is clear, and the destination is the heart of the universe. Sleep now, in the golden light of the record, in the silent company of the stars, in the perfect, peaceful vacuum of the dream. The golden, drifting glow of the Voyager's record carrying our music into the infinite dark begins to transmute. The cold vacuum of space softens into a rich, mahogany-red warmth that feels like the resonant interior of a cello. We find ourselves in Porto, Portugal, at the Livraria Lello, where the architecture itself seems to be composed of liquid and shadow. Imagine a staircase that doesn't just climb, but flows, a crimson-red, neo-Gothic river of wood that spirals through the centre of the room like a double helix of pure imagination. The wood is so polished it reflects the amber light of the massive stained glass skylight far above, which bears the Latin motto Decus in labora, honour in work. But here, the only work is the effortless movement of your mind. The banisters curve with an organic grace, reminiscent of the ribs of a giant ancient creature protecting its hoard of stories. As you trace the line of the wood with your eyes, you feel the world outside, the salt-tangled air of the Atlantic and the bustle of the cobblestone streets, melting into a distant, unimportant blur. There is only the curve, the flow, and the soft velvet silence of the books that line the walls from floor to ceiling. The air is heavy with the scent of old paper and the wax used to buff the intricate carvings. Every step you take in this dream space is silent, cushioned by the weight of a century of reverence. You are held in a cocoon of dark wood and stained glass, a sanctuary where gravity feels lighter and the rhythm of your heart settles into the slow, steady pulse of the building itself. As you linger on that crimson staircase, you feel a sense of perfect balance, a centering of your soul, and as this knowledge settles, your breathing slows, deeper and more rhythmic. The dark, polished wood of Porto begins to brighten, the shadows retreating as we are drawn toward the blindingly white, sun-drenched coast of Egypt. We are standing before the modern Bibliotheca Alexandrina, a vast, tilting disc of granite and glass that rises from the earth like a second sun. The exterior wall is a monumental curve of grey Aswan granite, carved with characters from 120 different human scripts, ancient hieroglyphs sitting beside modern alphabets, all of them silent, all of them equal. Visualize the sunlight reflecting off the Mediterranean Sea and hitting this wall, the light dancing across the carved stone like ripples on water. The roof of the library is a shimmering plane of glass and aluminum, tilted toward the north to pull in the cool, indirect light of the sky while shielding the books from the harsh desert heat. Inside, the reading room is a series of terraced levels, cascading downward like a waterfall of light. The columns are slender and white, branching at the top like concrete papyrus plants. There is an immense, airy openness here, a feeling that your thoughts have room to soar, to expand, to fill the vast volume of the hall. The air is cool and smells faintly of the sea and the clean, sterile scent of modern preservation. It is a cathedral of the future built on the ruins of the past, a place where the light is so pure it seems to wash away the clutter of your mind, leaving only a vast, sparkling clarity. You are floating in a sea of white stone and blue glass, suspended in the bright, peaceful present. The brilliant white light of Alexandria begins to fade, sinking down, through layers of rock and soil until the world becomes cool, dark, and profoundly dry. We have travelled to the heart of Kansas, into the sprawling subterranean silence of the salt mines. Here, hundreds of feet below the surface, the underground vaults and storage create a library of human culture that is impervious to the chaos of the surface. Imagine long, echoing corridors carved directly into the white and grey salt, where the temperature is a constant, unyielding 68 degrees and the humidity is a perfect, dry 40%. This is where the original reels of Hollywood's greatest films, the master recordings of history's most famous songs, and millions of boxes of corporate and government archives go to sleep. The air is still and tastes faintly of salt, a clean mineral taste that speaks of stability. There are no insects here, no mould, no fire. The salt is a natural preservative, a crystalline guardian of human memory. Visualize the rows upon rows of steel shelves stretching into the darkness, holding the celluloid dreams of a century. In this deep subterranean vault, the passage of years is meaningless. The films stay as vibrant as the day they were shot. The paper remains crisp and white. You're in the quietest place on Earth, a world made of salt and steel where the only sound is the soft rhythmic hum of the ventilation system. The weight of the earth above you is not a burden, but a thick protective blanket, insulating you from the noise, the weather, and the relentless march of time. You're safe in the salt, deep, still, and perfectly preserved. And as you rest in this cool underground sanctuary, you feel your muscles becoming as heavy and still as the salt itself, sinking into the earth, letting go of the world above. The darkness of the salt mines begins to thin, turning into a pale, ghostly grey as we rise once again, far beyond the clouds, toward the silver dust plains of the moon. On the lunar surface, tucked within the legs of a lander, rests the Lunar Library, a collection of 30 million pages of human history, etched onto microscopic layers of nickel. Visualize these discs. They are the size of a coin, yet they hold the entirety of Wikipedia, the Rosetta Stone, and thousands of books, all etched at a scale so small they can only be read with a microscope. The moon is the ultimate archive. There is no wind to blow the dust, no rain to rustle the pages, no oxygen to turn the paper to ash. The library sits in a vacuum, bathed in the stark, alternating light of the lunar day and the deep velvet black of the lunar night. To think of this library is to think of a message intended for 1 billion years from now. It is a library of pure endurance. The silence here is absolute. It is the silence of the cosmos. As you visualize the silver discs resting in the lunar dust, you feel a sense of cosmic perspective. Your story is part of this silver hoard, a tiny spark of life preserved in the eternal quiet of the moon. The vacuum is not empty. It is a space of infinite peace, where the worries of the earth are left behind, and all that remains is the cold, beautiful light of the stars reflecting off the nickel pages. You're drifting in the lunar night, weightless, timeless, and profoundly calm. The silver light of the moon begins to warm, turning into a soft golden amber as we descend back to Earth, into the heart of New York City. We are standing in the Rosemain reading room of the New York Public Library. This is a room the size of a football field, but it feels as intimate as a chapel. Imagine looking up at the ceiling, 52 feet above you. It is not made of stone or wood, but of clouds. A series of massive painted murals depict a sky at perpetual golden hour, soft pinks, oranges and blues that seem to drift within the ornate gilded moulding. The light in the room comes from massive arched windows that look out over the city, but the light is filtered, turned into a syrupy golden glow that settles over the long oak tables. The chandeliers are masterpieces of brass and crystal, hanging like glowing fruit from the celestial ceiling. The air is hushed, a collective silence maintained by hundreds of readers, broken only by the soft rhythmic thud of a book being closed or the faint metallic rattle of the book delivery system. The tables are worn smooth by the hands of millions of seekers, a tactile history of curiosity. To be here is to be in the centre of the world, yet completely removed from it. The scale of the room makes your own thoughts feel grand, yet the warmth of the wood and the softness of the painted sky make you feel nurtured and safe. You're a small part of a great golden hive of intellect, resting in the heart of the city that never sleeps, while you yourself prepare for the deepest rest of all. You're doing so well, just allowing the golden light to fill your mind. And as this knowledge settles, your breathing slows, deeper and more peaceful. Yes. The golden sky of the reading room begins to fold and crease, turning into the texture of ancient handmade paper. We travel back in time and space to the edge of the Gobi Desert, back to the caves of Dunhuang, to look at a single, miraculous object, the Diamond Sutra. This is the world's oldest dated printed book, a scroll over 15 feet long, made of 7 sheets of paper pasted together. Visualize the texture of the paper. It is made of mulberry bark, thick and slightly fibrous, with a pale, creamy colour that has survived since the year 868. The ink is a deep charcoal black, printed with wooden blocks carved with such precision that every character is a work of art. The scroll begins with a stunning woodcut illustration of the Buddha surrounded by his disciples, the lines as fine as a spider's silk. To look at this scroll is to witness the birth of a new era of human connection. The paper is cool and dry, carrying the scent of the desert and the faint, ghostly aroma of the ancient ink. The words are a teaching on the nature of reality, that everything is as fleeting as a bubble in a stream, as a flash of lightning in a summer cloud. This philosophy is mirrored in the object itself. It has survived through the centuries by being hidden, by being still, by being part of the silence of the cave. As you imagine the scroll unrolling slowly, foot by foot, the rhythmic repetition of the characters acts as a visual mantra, clearing your mind of all distraction. You are part of the flow of the scroll, a single point in a line of wisdom that stretches across a millennium. The ancient static scroll begins to move, its paper fluttering as it is carried through the air on the back of a bicycle. We're in the narrow, sun-dappled streets of an Italian village, watching the bibliocyclo go by. This is a library on 3 wheels, a sturdy vintage bicycle with a large wooden box mounted on the front. The box is painted a bright, cheerful blue, and when the lid is opened, it reveals a carefully curated collection of children's stories, local histories, and classic novels. Imagine the sound of the bicycle's bell, a clear, silver tinkle-tinkle that echoes off the stone walls of the houses. The librarian pedals slowly, a messenger of joy in a world of rush. When the bike stops in the village square under the shade of a large plane tree, the children gather around, the air filled with the scent of jasmine and fresh bread. This is a library of movement and human touch. It is small, personal, and profoundly kind. The bicycle represents the idea that knowledge should come to you, that it should be part of the rhythm of your daily life. As the bike moves on, the sound of the bell fading into the distance, you feel a sense of lightness. The library is not a heavy, immobile building. It is a light, mobile gift. You can pedal away from your worries as easily as the librarian, drifting through the sunny streets of your imagination until you find a quiet place to stop and rest. The sunny streets of Italy begin to age and grey, the stone becoming darker and more weathered as we move toward the Cathedral of Vercelli. Tucked away in the archives here is a mystery that has puzzled scholars for centuries, the Vercelli book. Imagine a thick, parchment volume, its pages darkened by time to the colour of old honey. It is one of the 4 most important manuscripts of Old English poetry, yet it has lived in this Italian cathedral since the 11th century. No one knows for sure how it got there. Perhaps a pilgrim, travelling the Via Francigena to Rome, left it behind as a gift or a penance. Visualise the script, the bold rhythmic strokes of the Anglo-Saxon scribe, writing a language that sounds like the crashing of waves and the clashing of shields. The book is a stranger in a strange land, a fragment of the cold, misty north, resting in the warm, Catholic heart of Italy. The air in the archive is cool and carries the scent of stone and ancient parchment. There is a sense of profound displacement here, but also of a higher unity. The book is safe, protected by people who could not even read its language, but who recognised its value as a sacred object. It is a library of one, a solitary, beautiful survivor. To think of the Vercelli book is to realise that you too can find a place of safety and respect, even in a world that feels unfamiliar. You can be the traveller who has finally found a home, resting in the dark, quiet vault of the night. And as you find your own home in this silence, you feel the weight of your body settling into the mattress, safe, honoured, and still. The dark, ancient parchment begins to turn green, the texture of the paper becoming the texture of a leaf. We are in a modern green library, where the walls are not made of stone but of living plants. Imagine a reading room where one entire wall is a vertical garden, a lush, thriving tapestry of ferns, mosses and trailing vines. The air here is different. It is rich with oxygen, cool and slightly humid, smelling of damp earth and growing things. The plants act as a natural acoustic filter, soaking up the noise of the world and replacing it with a soft ambient hush. As you sit in a chair beside this living wall, you can see the tiny droplets of water glistening on the leaves like diamonds. The light is soft and greenish, filtered through the foliage, creating an atmosphere that feels like the bottom of a clear forest pool. This is a library that is literally alive. It breathes as you breathe. It grows as you grow. The presence of the plants lowers your heart rate and eases the tension in your mind, reminding you that you are part of the natural world. You're not just reading, you're photosynthesizing the peace of the room. The rhythm of the garden is slow and patient, a cycle of life that knows no hurry. You are rooted in this green silence, your thoughts turning into soft green leaves that unfurl in the quiet of the night. Finally, we return to the grand scale of the past, but we look upward toward the infinite. We are in the library of the Escorial in Spain, standing before the massive brass celestial globes that sit upon the dark wooden tables. These globes are masterpieces of the Renaissance, etched with the constellations as they were seen by the ancient astronomers. Imagine the glow of the brass in the dim light of the library, the surface of the globe cool and smooth under your hand. As you spin the globe, the stars and the mythical beasts of the zodiac revolve around a central axis. This is the library of the cosmos made small enough to touch. The room around you is a tunnel of frescoes and gold, but your focus is on the spinning stars. The motion is steady and silent, round and round, a miniature version of the turning of the earth. It is the perfect bridge between the terrestrial and the celestial. You're standing in a palace of stone, yet you're holding the heavens in your hands. The rhythm of the spinning globe acts as a final hypnotic anchor. The stars on the brass are the same stars that shine outside your window. The library has led you from the deep sea to the moon, and now it brings you back to the centre of your own being. The globe slows and stops, and the stars are still. The library is closed, the lights are out, and the universe is at rest. You have reached the end of this passage, and the only story left is the one you will write in your dreams. Sleep now, in the golden centre of the stars, in the silent hall of the world, in the perfect peaceful library of the night. The stars on that brass celestial globe begin to shrink, getting smaller and smaller as if the universe itself were being folded into a pocket, until the vastness of the heavens is contained within a space no larger than a child's shoebox. We find ourselves in the library of Queen Mary's doll's house, a world built at a scale of 1 to 12. Imagine standing in a room where the ceilings are only inches high, yet every detail is a masterpiece of perfection. The walls are lined with over 700 miniature books, each one bound in real leather, tooled with genuine gold leaf, and stamped with tiny royal crests. These are not mere props. They are real books, with real pages, containing original works written by the great authors of the era, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Thomas Hardy and Rudyard Kipling, written by hand in ink so fine it can only be read with the strongest magnifying glass. The silence here is a miniature silence, delicate and precise. You can almost feel the presence of the tiny invisible librarians who might walk across the thick velvet carpet. The light comes from microscopic chandeliers, casting a soft golden glow over the tiny walnut shelves. To look into this room is to experience the magic of the small, a feeling of intense, protective coziness. The world outside is big and loud and chaotic, but in this dollhouse library, everything is perfectly ordered, perfectly scaled, and perfectly still. You feel a sense of gentle wonder. A relaxation that comes from focusing on the minute, the intricate and the miniature, letting your thoughts become as light and small as a tiny leather book, drifting into a world where even the shadows are delicate and soft. As we leave this tiny gilded room, the scale of the world shifts once again, expanding outward into the lush, emerald humidity of the northern Thai jungle. We're no longer looking at the small. We're following the slow, majestic footsteps of a giant. This is the biblio-elephant. Imagine the sound of heavy padded feet pressing into the damp, leaf-strewn earth, a rhythmic, low-frequency thud that you can feel in your own chest. A team of elephants, gentle and wise, carries large wooden crates strapped to their backs, filled with books for the remote hill tribe children who live far beyond the reach of roads. The air is thick with the scent of wild jasmine, rain-soaked teak, and the warm, earthy smell of the elephants themselves. The animals move with a deliberate, unhurried grace, their large ears flapping slowly like the pages of a massive living book. When they reach a village, the elephants stand perfectly still, their dark, liquid eyes blinking with an ancient patience. The crates are opened, and the forest is suddenly filled with the rustle of paper and the soft voices of children. The elephant represents the ultimate guardian of knowledge, strong, steady, and kind. As you visualize the sway of the elephant's gait, your own body begins to find that same slow rhythm, a heavy, swaying peace that carries you through the jungle of your thoughts. You are safe in the company of these giants, protected by their strength and lulled by their steady, rhythmic breathing. And as the elephant's breath mingles with the mist of the jungle, you find your own breath becoming deeper, slower, and as this knowledge settles, your breathing slows. Yes, just like that. The humid jungle air begins to dry and age, turning into the scent of a different kind of forest, one that has been preserved in a xylothek. This is a wood library, where the books are not made of paper, but are actually made from the trees they describe. Imagine a shelf filled with what look like thick, leather-bound volumes, but as you reach out to touch one, you realize the cover is actually the raw, textured bark of a tree: birch, oak, cedar, or pine. Each book is a hollow box made from a specific species of wood. When you open the wooden cover, the interior contains samples of the tree's leaves, its seeds, its dried flowers, and even a small vial of its resin. It is a library of the forest's DNA. The room smells like a woodshop and a botanical garden combined. A rich, grounding aroma of cedarwood, dry moss, and old sap. The light is filtered through the natural grain of the wood, creating a warm, organic atmosphere. There is something profoundly satisfying about the weight of these wooden books in your hand, a connection to the living earth that paper can sometimes lose. To be here is to realize that every tree is a story, every forest a library. You are surrounded by the silent, sturdy presence of the trees, and that sturdiness passes into you. You feel your roots reaching down into the cool, dark soil, your branches reaching up toward the soft light of the ceiling, resting in the slow, seasonal pulse of the woods. The grounding scent of the wood library begins to fade into the cool blue velvet of the coming night. We're exploring the library of the night, a concept for those whose minds only truly awaken when the rest of the world has gone to sleep. Imagine a library that only opens its doors when the sun sets. The windows are high and arched, framing a sky of deep indigo and the silver sliver of a crescent moon. There are no harsh overhead lights here. The room is illuminated by the soft, warm glow of individual reading lamps and the flickering light of a green marble fireplace. The silence is different at night. It is thicker, more intimate, as if the darkness itself is a soundproofing material. In the quiet of the night, the characters in the book seem more real, their voices clearer in the stillness. You are the only person in your row, tucked into a high-backed velvet armchair that smells faintly of lavender and old smoke. The light from your lamp creates a small, safe island of clarity in the surrounding dark. There is no urgency at night, no phone calls, no emails, no demands. There is only you and the page. As you watch the soft shadows dance on the ceiling, you feel a sense of profound liberation. The day is over, its work is done, and you are free to wander the archives of the night. The darkness is not empty. It is a soft, protective embrace that allows you to finally let go. And as you let go into the velvet dark, you feel a familiar, comforting aroma rising to meet you. A scent that carries you back to the very first library you ever loved. This is the scent of old book smell, a fragrance so beloved that it has been captured in vials and studied by chemists. This is the library of fragrances. When paper, ink, and glue age over decades, they undergo a slow, chemical transformation, releasing volatile organic compounds. One of these is vanillin, the same molecule found in vanilla beans. Another is benzaldehyde, which smells of almonds. Together they create that intoxicating, nostalgic aroma of a second-hand bookstore or an ancient archive. A scent that triggers the limbic system and tells the brain it is safe, it is home, and it is time to be still. Imagine walking down a long aisle of books that have sat undisturbed for a century. With every step, you release a tiny puff of this vanilla almond perfume. It is a physical manifestation of time. The air is heavy and sweet, like a dessert for the soul. Science tells us that the smell of old books can actually lower the heart rate and reduce blood pressure. It is a natural sedative. As you breathe in this ancient perfume, you feel the tension in your jaw and shoulders simply dissolve. You're breathing in history, breathing in the quiet thoughts of 1,000 authors, and it is making you feel heavy and relaxed. The scent is a bridge to the past, a warm, fragrant blanket that wraps around your senses and pulls you down into the deep, soft cushions of the present moment. While the scent of the past lingers in the air, we move toward a place of absolute crystalline isolation. We are travelling to the Judean desert, to the monastery of Mar Saba. Imagine a massive stone fortress clinging to the side of a sheer, sun-bleached cliff overlooking the Kidron Valley. The library here is one of the oldest in existence, a collection of Greek and Syriac manuscripts hidden in rock-cut rooms that have remained unchanged for 1,500 years. The air is dry and hot, smelling of ancient stone, beeswax candles, and the vast, empty desert. To reach the library, you must walk along narrow stone balconies that hang over the abyss. The light is blindingly bright outside, but inside the library it is dim and cool, the walls made of the living rock of the mountain itself. The monks have guarded these books through wars, empires, and the passage of ages, living in a silence that is as vast as the desert sky. There is a feeling of incredible sturdiness here, a sense that nothing can shake these walls. As you imagine yourself sitting on a stone bench in the cool shadows, looking out at the shimmering heat of the valley, you feel a sense of total detachment from the world. You're in a high, silent place, far above the reach of modern life. The desert is a library of stone, and you are resting in its heart. And as you rest in the stone heart of the desert, you realise that your own heart has found a steady, peaceful rhythm. And as this knowledge settles, your breathing slows, deeper and heavier. Yes. The dry heat of the desert begins to cool, turning into the soft grey mist of a forgotten railway station. We're exploring the Library of Lost Things. In the vast transit hubs of the world, the grand stations of London, Paris and Tokyo, there are rooms filled with the objects people have left behind. Among the umbrellas and the coats are thousands of books. These are the nomads of the literary world. Imagine a shelf filled with books that were left on a train seat or forgotten in a waiting room. Each one carries a trace of its previous owner, a ticket stub used as a bookmark, a name scrawled on the flyleaf, a pressed flower between the pages. These are books that have travelled the world alone. There is a gentle, melancholy beauty in these lost stories. They represent the fragments of human lives that intersect for a moment and then drift apart. In the Library of Lost Things, these books are given a second chance. They are waiting for a new hand to pick them up, a new mind to inhabit their pages. The air is quiet and smells of damp wool and old paper. As you look at the rows of forgotten titles, you feel a sense of kinship with them. We're all in some way travellers who leave things behind. But here, in this quiet room, everything is eventually found. Everything has a place. You can leave your own worries on the shelf, like a forgotten book, and walk away into the quiet, misty night. The mist of the station begins to vibrate and hum, transforming into the sound of 1,000 voices, a library of the human breath. This is the archive of extinct languages. Imagine a room filled with silver reels of tape and digital archives that hold the last recorded sounds of languages that are no longer spoken by anyone on Earth. You put on a pair of headphones, and suddenly, the room is filled with the rhythmic, musical cadence of a voice from the Amazon, or the guttural, powerful tones of a lost Siberian dialect. These are the sounds of humanity's diverse ways of seeing the world. The library is not made of paper, but of vibrations in the air. The act of listening is a form of deep, concentrated meditation. As you listen to the rise and fall of these unfamiliar words, You don't need to understand their meaning to feel their power. They are like a lullaby from a distant ancestor. The voices are steady, rhythmic, and calm. They carry the wisdom of generations who lived in harmony with the earth. As the voices surround you, your own internal chatter begins to fade. You are part of the great global conversation of humanity, a conversation that transcends time and space. The vibrations of the voices act as a gentle massage for your brain, smoothing out your thoughts until they are as quiet and clear as a mountain lake. The sound of the voices begins to sink, going deeper and deeper, until it becomes the low-frequency hum of the deep ocean. We are visiting the Library of the Deep. In the cold, dark waters off the coast of the Orkney Islands, Microsoft once submerged a data center, a massive white steel cylinder filled with servers. This is the modern library at its most extreme. Imagine the cylinder resting on the seabed, surrounded by the silent indigo pressure of the North Atlantic. Inside, millions of books and documents are stored as pulses of light on spinning disks. The ocean acts as a natural coolant, the cold water moving endlessly around the steel shell. There are no humans here, no lights, no noise, only the rhythmic swaying of the kelp forests and the slow passage of fish. The data is safe in the cold, dark quiet of the deep. To think of this underwater library is to feel a sense of profound, pressurized peace. The weight of the ocean above is a shield, protecting the knowledge of the world from the storms of the surface. You're sinking with the library, down into the blue, down into the quiet, where the only movement is the slow, graceful dance of the tides. You're becoming part of the water, cool, deep, and infinitely still. And as you sink into the blue, you feel your eyelids becoming heavy as the ocean itself. And as this knowledge settles, your breathing slows. Finally, the vast scale of the ocean begins to fold inward, getting smaller and smaller, until we reach the ultimate library of the future, the DNA archive. Scientists have discovered that the 4-letter code of DNA, the very blueprint of life, is the most efficient data storage system in the universe. Imagine the entire Library of Congress, with its millions of books and maps being encoded into the molecules of a single drop of liquid. This is a library that can last for tens of thousands of years without ever losing a single character. Visualize a small, clear vial of water sitting on a white pedestal in a silent room. Within that drop is the sum of human knowledge. It is a library of pure potential. It reminds us that we are ourselves living libraries. Our bodies carry the stories of our ancestors in every cell. We are the books that read themselves. The silence in this room is the silence of the beginning of the world, a space of infinite possibility and total rest. You don't need to do anything to access this knowledge. It is already within you. You are the archive. You are the story. As you look at the drop of liquid, you feel a sense of profound completion. The journey is over. The library is full. The world is at peace. You have reached the end of the day, and the only thing left to do is to close your eyes and let the story continue in your dreams. Sleep now, in the drop of water, in the code of life, in the perfect, peaceful library of your own being. The liquid code of the DNA archive settles into the deep, quiet pools of your subconscious, and as the final vibration of the modern world fades, we arrive at the threshold of the 101st wonder. This is the most profound secret of all, the final truth that has been waiting for you since the very first breath of this journey. It is the library of the unwritten. This sanctuary is not built of stone, nor is it bound in leather or etched in nickel. It is a library of pure, shimmering potential that exists in the vast, silent space between your thoughts. Visualize a space where the walls are made of soft, translucent mist, and the floor is as steady as the foundations of the earth. In this library there are no books on the shelves, for the stories here are the ones you have yet to tell, the dreams you have yet to dream, and the peace you're only now beginning to inhabit. This is the internal architecture of your own soul, Every library we have visited, the sun-drenched marble of Alexandria, the frozen vaults of the Arctic, the velvet shadows of the night, they were all reflections of this inner landscape. You are the architect of this silence. You are the guardian of this light. In the library of the unwritten, time does not pass, it expands. It is a place where every anxiety is unmade and every burden is set down at the door. It is the ultimate sanctuary, a fortress of quiet that can never be lost, for it is the very essence of who you are. You're the 101st wonder, the living archive of infinite possibility, resting now in the heart of the great eternal hush, and as this final secret settles, like a single golden dust mote finding its home on a velvet shelf, the lights of our long journey begin to dim. One by one, the emerald lamps of Paris flicker out, the golden chandeliers of New York grow soft, the desert sun sets for the last time over the bricks of Nalanda, leaving only a warm, gentle radiance that emanates from within you. You're wrapped in a blanket of absolute unwavering safety. The knowledge you have gathered tonight is no longer information. It has transformed into a feeling of profound weight, a feeling of total belonging, a feeling of being perfectly, exquisitely held by the silence. The pages have stopped turning, the ink has dried on the parchment, and the heavy iron-bound doors of the world have been closed and locked behind you. You're in the sanctuary now. Feel the weight of your limbs, as heavy as the ancient clay tablets of Nineveh. Feel the rhythm of your heart, as steady and slow as the growth of the future library's forest. You are drifting, further and further away from the shore of the waking world, sinking into the soft, dark cushions of the infinite. The words have become whispers, and the whispers have become the breath of the wind. You have done enough. You have travelled through the stars and the deep seas, and now you have come home. There is nothing left to search for. There is nothing left to do. Your mind is a vast, quiet gallery, and every story is at rest. The 101 wonders are not outside of you. They are breathing with you. They are sleeping within you. They are the very fabric of your peace. The journey is complete. The silence is perfect. The dream is ready. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.